Hello. Yes, the screen is black. Don't worry about it. I just am doing stuff in reverse like a moron right now. We're good. I was just checking to see how much hard drive space we had. Okay. There we go. I'm gnawing on a cough drop. Today's going to be a doozy. Oh, we don't even have the feed on. There you go. You should see it in a second now. There we go. Okay, so the time of this casting is the 13th of March, 2022. It's quite early in the morning, actually, like 9, close to 10. We're going to pause this for a second. We got a lot to talk about in this video. Okay, so this is going to be a long game. And I really can't afford to use the speed up in this. Maybe later on, if I feel like it, but there's gonna be a lot of this. This is a long game, and there's a lot of things I want to talk about in this replay. Okay, so first let's start off. So our teams are High Zealot, Doughboy, 4, Bill Emu, and Ricky, and they're up against me, Higgs, Q, and Thylolly. So very similar teams in the last couple of games we've played, but Doug Boy is going to immediately die. The game took like 15 minutes to start. I'm assuming that he's trying to play the game on like either a Macintosh or, God forbid, Debian, and he just exploded or something. So it'll actually be 3 versus 4. But we have Thylolly on our team, so he's like a wild card. And then I was thinking about that this morning. I was thinking I should probably describe the players a little bit so we understand why he's a wild card. Okay, so this is a longer game, which is suffice to say it's more balanced than a lot of the other games we've played. This is a new version of the map, so HKS has gone in and made some array changes to the map to try to fix some of the bugs we talked about previously. Things like the creep camp respawning and stuff like that all hypothetically should work now. The barracks construction should all hypothetically work now. And a lot of the other jank of the systems relating that should all be dealt with. We've also made some small changes to Carrion Swarm. I believe the mana cost, at least for the early levels, was increased and the projectile speed was slowed somewhat. It does have a higher maximum damage. There is actually maximum damage caps on the AoE spells. Both HKS and Mucky brought this up. So that's something to consider, is that I believe HKS said that Carrion Storm has like double the damage cap of Shockwave. I don't know if he changed that, but that's something we might change. Anyways, we're not really going to talk about too much about Carrion Storm in this game. There will be Carrion Storm in this game. Both teams are going to take Carrion Storm. But to me, it felt, I don't know. It's at this stage where if it's still causing a lot of issues for game balancing, it would probably be the maximum damage. And it's not big enough for me to really focus my energy in casting about in this game. We might watch it in this game and talk about it, but it's not going to be my focus. Okay. So this is a game where we're going to talk about a lot of stuff we haven't really talked too much about, and that's why I wanted to bring up the player skills and my general assessment of them. Okay, so let's start with their team. So on their team, we have Doug Boy 4. My only knowledge about him is that his wife / roommate / daughter, pretty much all the above. He's definitely rocking some of that diversity there. He explodes right away. So his general skills and strategy seems to be on being unable to connect to the World Wide Web. So that doesn't really work out for him. So let's start with Bill the Emu. So Bill the Emu, when I think of Bill the Emu, I think of consistency. Bill isn't going to be he's my, there's a fucking word for it. I can't fucking forget it. He's my control. You got like a control group that you base stuff off of. That's what I would consider Bill, because he's very consistent. We played with Bill quite extensively through Blizzard Dota. And of course, he's played this and StarCraft 1 and stuff like that and throughout the years. And Bill, to me, he's very consistent. But in a way, because of that consistency, to me, there isn't a lot of growth, right? You don't really, when you think of Bill, you don't really think of huge plays. You don't really think of, massive technical skill or whatever. But there are definitely some things that work out for him. I remember he played Nova in Blizzard Dota, and that worked out actually really well. I remember him being pretty good with Nova and a couple others. Bill is also pretty flexible, so he could play a number of things. He could play tank, like I said, he could play Nova. He wasn't really the kind of person at the time I expected to be able to play what was, especially in that current meta that we were playing, a very risky pick. High risk, high reward kind of. Just because of the amount of CC and stuff that was flying around, playing Nova was actually kind of difficult, and surviving was kind of difficult. But Bill did pretty well and pretty consistency. Consistency is very important. What it means is that across every single game, Bill puts out pretty predictable results. Whenever you put Bill into a group, you can always kind of expect him to perform at the level he normally performs at. Bill doesn't usually seem to have any major variance that he has like really bad days. So that's why I say Bill is very consistent, because that's what consistency entails, is that you can always expect him to perform at his normal level. The only exceptions I might think what comes to mind to me is some games of, say, Battleships, where Bill had a lot of bad luck playing as a trader and got picked out a lot. But it wasn't like, when I think back to Blizzard Dota, of course, it's been some years since we played that. I can't really think of any times he really had super bad games, right? He may have had some rough games, but nothing really bad. So now we go to Ricky, and Ricky is consistently French. And consistently French means that Ricky is almost like a polar opposite to Bill in many ways. Ricky is ceaselessly risky. Ricky takes constant, unnecessary risks all over the place. Ricky is also stubborn to a fault, in which he will try to do something even though it clearly does not work, over and over and over and over again, like an insane mental patient expecting results to change even though they haven't changed for the past half an hour. But Ricky is also extraordinarily persistent. And this is one of the reasons why other players had a lot of trouble with Ricky when it came to stuff like Warlords and Merchants. It's because Ricky is extraordinarily persistent, and he was one of the only people who could keep up to some stage with me in terms of those long games and building shit all over the place and playing hide and seek and dealing with stuff like that. Ricky would eventually fall apart because his mechanical skill level is actually very low. And his general intuition is not amazingly high either. So while he had a lot of stubbornness, as time would go on, he would start to kind of fall apart. And I mean, early on, he would fall apart too. But to me, Ricky's strength is really in that stubbornness. And when it comes into long games like this, Ricky's stubbornness will keep him going for a long time. A problem with a lot of players is they fatigue. They fatigue very easily. A lot of players I've run into, they have very strong performance within like the 10-15 minutes, and then that's it. Once you start going into 40-50 minutes, they start to corrode a lot. And when you hit 2 hours, they're making mistakes that you never would think of them making. One of those players that I talked extensively about back when we were doing StarCraft 2 stuff is Imperia. Imperia was a mechanically competent StarCraft 2 player who was, I believe, somewhere around Diamond. And he was, at the very least, probably equivalent to me when I still played StarCraft 2 Melee fairly consistently. So there was a good chance that he was probably better than me, too. I never got to see, because when we played against each other, it was mostly in Warlords or Merchants. But you could see that he had that level of mechanical consistency. The problem with Imperia was he had no stamina at all. So once the game started passing 20-30 minutes... he started becoming more like Ricky in a way, more reckless. And then a lot of the stuff he would do out of stubbornness, but it was something that put him off key. It was something that put him off balance. And then he would not perform nearly as well as Ricky would. And then Ricky would actually come out on top. Ricky came out on top on many of their engagements as a result. But watching these two players fight each other in Warlords and Merchants was always really interesting. because Imperia in any, standard ladder game against Ricky would, in all likelihood, absolutely wipe the floor with him and create a giant sea of bagel crumbs. But when it came to Warlords and Merchants, where Ricky was able to delay just because of the way the map worked, or because there was a lot of players that were interfering or whatever, and it reached like the longer stages of the game, you had Ricky, who was very, very clearly mechanically inferior to Imperia, but so much more fucking stubborn than Imperia. And then that stubbornness would just erode him down and destroy him. I remember it was one of the legacy replays that re-uploaded on GameProc before DreamHost decided to be complete fucktards. Was one of those games, and it was always an exciting game to go back to, just to see the way that the skill sets of the two different players clashed. But Ricky also has not changed very much in a long time either. But there are some things that work well for Ricky. When we're talking about stuff like Warcraft 3 or whatever, we're going across a lot of different genres. There's a fucking square here. I think that's just because of the actual mesh of the object, since those are just planes. It's just an extruded box, and then you have the cutoff because there's no depth bias fall off. Ricky does better in some game types than others. When it comes to competitive game types, Ricky is extremely prone to making basically leaps of faith at the best of time. But also, he gets stuck on these little missions. And they just like running up and shockwaving buildings and getting himself killed. We've seen that a couple times in TGS. So, but one thing Ricky will do a lot in this map is he will consistently upgrade the creeps all the time. So that never changes. He never gets tired of doing that. I get tired of doing that, right? Especially since when I walk into a lot of these TGS games, especially in the last couple weeks since TGS started updating it, I'm more interested in looking at the game balance and trying out different stuff and seeing how different stuff interacts. And I want to try out the items. But a lot of the times on my team, I'm the only person who's really going to be consistently upgrading creeps early on. Sometimes Q will do it, sometimes HKS will do it, sometimes Thylole will do it. But if I want to match Ricky in that regards, I will do it. But I usually don't want to because I want to spend my money on items. And that brings us into the whole item interaction versus buying stuff. Ricky doesn't normally play characters that are heavy on items to begin with. He almost always plays caster, except for a couple times he goes physical damage, and then it doesn't work out, and he goes back to playing caster. So Ricky has sort of tendencies that are usually very easy to read, and the kind of classes he plays, depending on the map, are often very predictable as a result. So we go to High Zealot. So I was talking about players last time and how High Zealot kind of stood out to me, because High Zealot to me is more of a modern player in the sense that he's played more consistently probably than most of, if not everybody else in this game. And he's more safe and he's also consistent. So to me, High Zealot and Bill are kind of similar in some respects, that they're both fairly consistent. And they both seem to perform consistently reasonably well in any given circumstance. I just don't know High Zealot. I haven't seen him hardly at all compared to Bill, but watching his streams and analyzing them for the various Ricky videos, it lets you get a better beat on what somebody's doing. So he's more modern. He plays with all the health bars on. Somehow he can sort it all out, and I can't do that in Warcraft 3. Warcraft 3's graphics are too unreadable for me as it is. Throwing on all the health bars at once is something you're supposed to do when you're checking the health of stuff, and I'll do it sometimes with the Alt key, but I think he plays with them on almost all the time. And that's just, it's just unreadable. So somehow he can make that readable. What High Zealot lacks to me is the technical skills. So he does have technical skills. I think that he has a higher technical skill than most of the other players in this. But really what makes High Zealot stronger is he's not really too keen on taking unnecessary risks. So sometimes we catch him out, or sometimes he does something that's perceivably silly. But not really any more than anybody else, and just usually as a result of circumstances, right? So High Zealot to me is he is avoiding reaching that sort of elo hell where you reach into golds where they all become extremely full of themselves and start taking a lot of unnecessary risks. He's avoided that. So I think that because of his consistency, because he is still playing, I believe he is or was playing StarCraft 2 stuff more consistently. Not normal melee though. So, but I mean, anything that keeps your reflexes and your mind chugging, anything that can help you sort of retain your general skill set, your interaction skill set, will just keep you consistent and prepared for dealing with any kind of pressure down the line. So that's why I say he's more of a modern player. And as a result, he tends to do things in here that other people perceive as strange or weird. Like, say, for example, buying creeps in Creep Arcade. Well, it just makes sense to do so. And then people will complain about it when he does that. And, I mean, it's just, everybody has the power to do that. Why wouldn't he do it, right? Why does he have to, not do this? So, it just makes sense. So, High Zealot, to me, is the biggest threat on their team. And then followed by Ricky. The thing about consistency is that consistency can be very predictable because it's consistent. Ricky's brashness and Frenchness means that he is willing to do things that seem absolutely absurd, and sometimes they work. So you gotta shut down Ricky right away. You gotta stuff him into the bagel machine right away, and get him under control before he's allowed to run amok and do French things. High Zealot, you gotta figure out what he's doing, and then you gotta counter it, and once you got him sorted out, then you can deal with Bill consistently and meet him on equal footing, and you can usually overcome that. But if you're not able to unravel the French, then you're going to be dealing with cheese the entire fucking game. And for a lot of people, they can't deal with that. So when we're talking about a team game, Ricky's very annoying, depending on the map. And he's very annoying for a lot of the lower skilled players. So let's go to our team. So on our team, we have, talk about Q. All right. So Q, to me, at least from what I've seen, not very mechanically explorative. But he does do a lot of explorative things otherwise. So mechanically, I would say he's kind of low-mid of the pack. I think Bill is able to outmaneuver him a lot depending on things. But Q also doesn't really fatigue too much. He does a little. I mean, I say that I remember in Warlords and Merchants, a lot of the times he'd kind of like sit in his base and not really do anything for a very, very long time. So I felt like he maybe was out like drinking coffee, partying, but not really getting into the game, really kind of just sitting on the sideline a lot. But what we've seen in TGS in the last few TGS games is that he's been trying a lot of weird things that have been actually working out. So I always got the impression that these things he's trying out are things he premeditated. He premeditated something to try out, as opposed to me, who is just like, I'll try this, I'll try that. I get the impression he tries things out because they seem so methodically thought out. Like the wind walking and the illusions and stuff like that is evidently based on some previous experience or idea with the game that he's had probably in another map, and I decided to exploit here. So, Q is a very defensive player, defensively minded, in that he does not take risks really at all. Anything that I think could be perceived as risk-taking from him is, generally speaking, going to be out of desperation or a mistake. Or you're just misconstruing it. To me, he's extremely defensively minded. Whenever there's a push going on, if the base is under attack, he almost always goes to defend the base. For example, he would rather not chase, people down most of the time. When we see him hanging out in the enemy base with windwalk and stuff like that, that's because we are so fucking far ahead. And he feels it's affordable to be in their base, and that's not even really a risk for him at that point, right? Now we have HKS. So HKS to me also is an individual who ends up taking unnecessary risks. There's another thing I wanted to mention. I just have a hard time putting into words since it's been so long since I've talked about this kind of stuff in this kind of framework. HKS has a not a very good situational awareness. It's often that he's not aware of when there's danger to him. So that's a problem I've come to get in this game too, actually, is there's a lot of times where he's hanging out in the enemy base too long and he's low on health. And that's not, I don't consider that risk taking. I consider that, I had actually thought of the word when I was laying down and now I completely forget it. It's, not greed either. And it's just, not really like paying attention, right? And I feel like HKS has always had a weakness in this stuff where he doesn't have that awareness. He's not really good at making those situational calls. And I think it's in large part because he doesn't invest too much into the game to begin with. I remember League being like that. So what ended up happening in League is he ended up playing a support for me. And when he did that, and then basically did what I told him to, things worked out pretty well. Our duo lanes usually had fair success. We didn't play enough for me to really gauge either way how far we could have gone with it. But at the time, it felt like we couldn't compete at gold level. So that's pretty good for a dual lane because, well, my mechanical skills were a lot higher than his, and I was more informed and educated in the game. But the support's job is still really important. So the things that he couldn't really do was very, very aggressive. I don't think he really got too much into the word game. I think he did a little bit. But the main thing with League is that you really needed to be on top of the word game. And the support was basically the word bitch. And I remember, I think he did some of the word stuff, but he wasn't really willing to go. God, it's been so many years. It's hard to believe, it's been like 6, 7, 8 years since we were doing that. It's been a long fucking time. I don't remember him really like going into the enemy jungle, following the enemy jungler position, and then counter jungling the wards. I don't remember him doing stuff like that, and that to me was like a hallmark of like a really good support. It was when they knew it was safe to leave the lane, go in the enemy jungle, and get rid of their wards, and place our wards in their jungle on their blue buff or whatever. There's a couple of gold, platinum supports I played with, and a couple of diamond supports as well, who just sort of knew the tempo of the map by following the mini-map and knowing where, like at the jungler gank's top, he's not going to be near his blue buff, because the blue buff is in the bottom of the map, which means that you can run in there and you can sweep it so long as your lane is like either pushed up, or the enemies have gone back, or, you're in a position where you can leave your ADC alone, and go clear out some stuff and then put some wards there, and then, or just go and steal their blue buff entirely. When I had the diamond supports, one of the things about them is that they were very, to my eyes, risky. Because I was playing the ADC and any CC could get me killed instantly. And here's a support who has like no way to even fight back. Although a lot of them were pretty tanky, a lot of these support spurts, they were not the tanking supports doing this. It wasn't Alistair, it wasn't Thresh, it was some other individuals. I just can't remember. It wasn't like Tom Kench. It was the squishier supports like Janna. So they would go in and they would know when to do this, and it wasn't risky when you looked at it because you realized the decision was very well informed. They were just looking for those opportunities. So a part of the skill range is to turn what looks to be and perceives to be risk-taking into educated decisions. And that's kind of the part of the learning process of getting out of the whole ELO hell thing. When you reach a certain point and you start taking risks, is to understand when you can take risks and when it turns into not a risk anymore. So there are cases, for example, in this game, actually, we're going to get into where I take what perceives to be a risk, where I literally just jump into enemy groups. But I'm actually really quite safe because there's not really a lot of kill threat on me. And then Ricky will really overreact when he really doesn't need to. So that's one thing I want to talk about in this a little bit too. And then we've got Thigh Loli. So Thigh Loli to me is the bottom rung of the rack to the stage that at some points I almost consider him to be a what the fuck is the word? I can't into words, man. I almost consider him a liability. There's another word for it. I swear it starts with D. D for dick. Anyways, while I think that Thyloli is capable of at least acceptable mechanics and performance. Speaking of which, with HKS, the thing about HKS's mechanics is that they're all for other games. He's played a lot better in other games, but I think that the Dodo clone thing never really clicked with him. With Thyloli, that might be the same way because there's a lot of things that he does that just, I don't know. But it's not really the mechanics to hold Thyloli down. It is the situational awareness is definitely really, 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 really bad. There's a lot of times he charges into certain death completely oblivious. Or maybe he knows and he just chooses to die, I'm not sure. There's a lot of times he's just out on his own taking unnecessary risks, especially later on in the game. He gets very easily tilted right away. A lot of the things about a lot of these other players is it takes a lot to tilt them. But what makes Ricky's stubbornness is the fact that it tilts people. That's what makes it effective. And HKS is one of the people who would definitely get tilted over a long game in certain circumstances. But he's gotten definitely a lot better at it over time. But a lot of the times, people like HKS would be like, well, I'm not really willing to sit to 2 hours dealing with a Frenchman. In the case of like warlords and merchants, a lot of people are inclined to just give up rather than stick it out to the end and try to get a win. And obviously, in replays I casted before, you most certainly can eke out a win in those circumstances. You just got to keep a cool head. Well, Thyloli is basically the opposite of a cool head. He is easily tilted by just about anything. He gets tilted at himself. And his game sense is very, I would say juvenile, but I actually think he might be as old as I am or older than I am. I'm not sure. I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean he's mentally aged a lot. There's certainly a lot of 34-year-olds I've met over the years who are mentally juvenile. And, but I don't know about him. Like, I don't read him at all, but I feel like that's kind of like the part of it is he never really developed the environmental awareness or situational awareness or stuff out of this game. There's probably other maps or game types he's a lot better at, and this doesn't really click with him too much. But when we take him onto our team and it turns out to be a 3v4 because Doug Boy is going to dig himself a grave, I actually feel a distinct sense of horror. Because it's like, I'm not going to be really taking this game seriously, and Thyloli might just end up feeding them lumber. And I'm really going to be depending on the other players to succeed. But you never know. Thyloli might, sometimes he pulls out a player or two that the enemy doesn't expect, and he manages to get in some wins, right? So, but also he's a player I know who will not last long. He fatigues easily. He's one of the people who gets easily trolled by Ricky. And that means that if the game goes on for a long time, we're basically going to be... Oh, handicap. That's the word I was looking for. It wasn't a D. It was handicap. He's a handicap because later on, as the game goes on, he gets more and more reckless. And the weaknesses in his play show up more and more. And it will cost us in the game. Because, well, you will see. Okay, let's begin. That's a long forward for a long-ass game. This is going to be really long. So something about Thyloli is he does kind of like premeditate what he's going to do, but a lot of what he's going to do and what he premeditates on is not very well informed, I feel like. For example, he's going to try to use feral spirit in this. It's not really going to work out. So, we end up going a pretty fat team overall, actually. Thyloli ends up taking Gould Diddly, and then we take 2 Pit Lords and a Crypt Lord, and we're all going to go caster, except for Q. It's kind of one of those things that's going to play into the mana regeneration problems that this map has. It's not really going to go well for us in terms of the mana regeneration. Bill is going to do something kind of similar to what Zilla does. He's going to go auras and tank, and his damage will never really be that high. So he's kind of like a support. I do not know what the fuck Bill is doing here, but he's jigging. Hyzal is going to go melee agility. So this will be very interesting to see. How effective he is, how much of a threat he is, what he manages to do to the map. Now, Doug Boy 4 does in fact last long enough to pick a hero and enter the map. So even though he will very, very quickly die, because he figures out that he's up past his bedtime, I guess, he is going to disappear quite soon. I'm not sure if he enters the lane, it's not for very long. And then what ends up happening though is I believe that HKS did say there was global experience between the two, between heroes. So if his hero is there, that means that the experience will always be even between the two teams. So they were talking, I heard HKS talking, and they were talking about Carrion Swarm and the other games and stuff again. Because HKS was explaining that summons no longer give experience or gold, I think. So they won't just feed your team. So actually, I haven't seen Illidan for a really long time. His innate ability is to summon what appears to be an immobile tree with a ranged attack, which is actually kind of interesting because it grants the melee hero a kind of a conditional ranged attack. So I'm going to go Flame Strike in this early on, even though I am a strength hero, because I'm going to level up Brilliance Aura quite aggressively in this. And my goal with that, generally speaking, is just to be fat and also to be able to AoE every now and then. So, Flame Strike is very arguable. Oh, he did enter lane. He didn't leave right away, so I guess he must have been in top lane for a while. HKS is getting shot by a Frenchman. HKS will go Chain Lightning early on. I believe Thigh Lolly will take Carrion Swarm. And I think High Zealot takes Carrion Swarm early on too, yeah. So I was being a little careful, but I wasn't really too worried, because Bill took an aura first, and I wasn't really in too much danger of dying. If I got very low, I just had to move back. But I didn't want him to poke me so much I wasn't able to stay in the lane when they're on the towers, because I wanted to collect experience. So far, nothing too exciting has happened. People are going back on both sides. Some people are hanging out in the lanes. I do eventually decide to go back when Q comes down here. Q is going to build like all health and then Frost Armor. So there's something sort of similar to what he was doing before. And some physical damage, I believe. Q is actually going to basically become immortal. So I'm not even entirely sure how that happened, but it's going to be kind of stupid. The problem being is that he'll have like no wave clear, so... But we have a lot of wave clear in the rest of our team. Now, early on, we are definitely not keeping up on upgrades. We're only seeing their upgrades right now. But our upgrades will not be early on. We are not even attempting to pool. Sometimes people will just give me money and I'll hang on to it. Other times I will upgrade stuff, and other times they will hang on to stuff. Q is standing inside the Flame Strike. Q took more Flame Strike from either of them. So that's what I mean by some of the players' mechanics in this, is they're just really not that good. Not that there's really a lot of people paying attention to Flame Strike in this, because nobody uses it. Because Flame Strike, as you just saw, is basically impossible to kill players with. You have to set up a whole whack of CC. You have to make sure not to interrupt it, which is very easy to do. And it takes quite a few levels for it to start dealing damage, especially since it has a ramp up to it. So it can do a lot of damage. It's great for killing minions, but not against heroes. So I knew at one point I would end up changing Flame Strike to another ability later on. So Doug Boy does hang out here for a little while. Oh my god.
I'm waiting.
By the way, that does give gold to the enemy team now when the Alliance so hard kills a player. And you lose golds. I didn't know this until HQs told me, but you lose gold when you die in this, at least to players. But now to the minions as well. So, I actually was not aware of that at all. So, Q's being fat. I think I was gonna go mid at one point, and then I like turned around. That will happen at one point, and it takes a really long time. So none of us can kill each other. They have Carrion Swarm on High Zealot, but he doesn't do enough damage to really threaten us. He can force us out of lane if he hits us enough, but we can't kill them either. Now, I took Brilliance Aura, and I was like, well, my mana regeneration isn't too bad for having a low-level Brilliance Aura. Surely the rest of the game won't be too terrible with mana now. We cornered Bill, and even though we're all so fucking fat, there's no way we actually can kill him. If I had Chain Lightning or something like that, I would have had kill threat, but I don't have any kill threat. I don't get a gold notice. You'll notice the innate ability for Magna Rod is Devour, but I never get a gold notice for them dying. It's possible, I didn't check, but I might be getting gold for them dying. And I just don't get the notice for it. Every now and then, a coin does appear when they die, though. So I would assume that I would get gold bounty out of it, too. He just ran up and sucked up his tree. He called me the gardener. Alright, so early on, we definitely have a creep upgrade disadvantage. But sometimes I've often thought that getting early creep upgrades against people with wave clear is actually bad. Because early on, the creeps are not going to take down the towers, and pushing is not really that important. Actually being pushed ahead can lead to you being more at risk, because if someone can chase you and CC you, you have to travel more of the lane if you're pushed against their towers, and they just show up. All the lanes are linear, though, and that's actually something I kind of want to talk about, but I think I'll save it for later in the video. Because I think this is going to be like a 2 or 3 hour long game. It felt like a fucking eternity anyways. So, Doug Boy went like Divine Shield Windwalk, so he literally does nothing. That said, the 2v1 lane is not going well for HKS. It feels like they have 5 people on their team, or is just nobody ever in mid. Nobody is ever in mid. Meanwhile, Ricky died again. That's the second Ricky death of the game already. So you can see that neither Q or I really do a heck of a lot of anything. We're just really, really fat.
I'm waiting.
Ricky lives for now. So we kind of like spend a long time ignoring each other until the minions are dead, and then we start slapping each other. But the big thing is that since auras are effective early on now, Bill actually, and his on hit plus the Carrion Swarm, they definitely have the advantage, right? The auras are making a big difference. The main upset is that we can kill the minions a lot faster, and the minions will end up doing a lot of damage against them. But the life regen was definitely effective even very early on. But that means that Bill can trade. Even if he loses out on the trade by taking minion damage, he will still come out on top. Because he... See, Ricky must have known he's never going to catch HKS. Right? But he chased so fucking far unnecessarily. So he missed out on gold and experience. Because I'm pretty sure the map experience is not as much as being adjacent. Otherwise, Thyloli wouldn't be so far ahead. Thyloli's been in a solo lane. And nobody has really been contesting him. It's really been the funny thing, is nobody's ever gone mid to fight him. Now, Q gets Black Arrow. Summon damage was changed to hero damage, so they'd be a little more effective at fighting the minions. Since it does basically neutral damage to minions. It does, I believe, just 100%, if I'm not mistaken. You can't see it in here. I'm thinking of another map where you can see it. They actually laid out the numbers. It might be wise to lay out the numbers in this one, actually, just to know. But I think it just does 100%. That's just because a lot of them did like piercing or magic or normal or whatever, and some of the later ones did chaos. But against like the footmen or whatever, piercing was literally useless. So yeah. I think I'm gonna get a drink in just a minute. We're gonna pause this and come back. Bill is just acquiring more auras. We're kind of stuck. It would be like Q needs a lot of boners to push the towers, and Flame Strike costs so much mana at this stage. Now my mana regeneration is not really amazing, but you have to keep in mind I have three level in Brilliance Aura, and Flame Strike, the mana cost for it increases absolutely colossally as you level it. One of the other changes HKS made to this map, just to kind of curb those edge cases like that one snowball game I talked about, is that you can only learn a maximum skill level that's equal to 1.5 your skill level. So if you did happen to get a whole bunch of lumber early on, you can't just level 10 a skill right away. That actually hits me a few times in this game because I'm trying to level up Flame Strike as fast as possible. But even though I'm not able to level it up very much, the mana cost on it will quickly reach an absolutely prohibitive point where I can hardly ever use it. Even though I'm leveling up Brilliance Aura alongside of it. Those will be the only two spells I have for a significant period of time. Now, it is worth mentioning again, I am a strength hero, so I'm going to be lower in it than most people, but it's not that big of a difference in the grand scheme of things, especially when it goes into late game. And a lot of your mana regeneration is coming from spells, or rather items to begin with. Items and auras. So I think I'm going to go put on some coffee really quick. Maybe grab a nibble to eat, because my throat is absolutely fucked up. Let's see. So he got 27 length and 43 strength. So we are very fat. We are giving up some mana regeneration for being fat. But items can compensate this by stacking regeneration percentage int. And yeah. It turns out that the mana regeneration percentage isn't nearly as good as it looks. The Selby mask is 50%, and the surgical mask can be added as 100%. I figured the 100% was going to be a luxury item that would be good for inventory management and would allow you to pick up other items other than mana regeneration. It's going to turn out, even with Khadgar's Bong and 2 surgical masks, plus level 10 Brilliance Aura, my mana regeneration is not going to be able to facilitate casting any more than a couple spells. And the solution that they will tell me is to just buy nothing but Khadgar's Pipes for more int. And that means that the mana regeneration coming out of the surgical mask is not nearly as effective as I thought it was going to be. So our upgrades right now are kind of evened out a little bit. They may be still a little ahead, but after a certain point of creep upgrades, it stops being really that important who is slightly ahead or not. Because everybody is killing minions at a slightly different rate, it becomes more about who's in the lanes and who's pushing them, more than about the raw minion numbers, except for the minion upgrade levels, which for the most part are going to be equal in this game. So Although I did notice we were very, very slow to get some of the caster upgrades. That said, kind of one of the things about this game is since none of us have kill threat on them, and they have a little bit of kill threat, as you can see, we can't really push them out of lanes very easily. So what that means is that between Ricky and a little bit with High Zealot, not really a lot, but a little bit, top lane's getting pushed a lot. And because they ignored Thyloli in mid lane, Thyloli did push mid lane a little bit, but since he went like Feral Spirit and some other stuff, he doesn't really do much wave clearing. Which means that I think he picks up Carrion Storm much later into the game. Yeah. Oh no, he does. No, never mind. That's High Zealot. He will pick it up later in the game, I believe, because you can see he went like Unholy Aura. I think he went like Unholy Aura Spirit Word, Feral Spirit or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. And it's not very effective. So meanwhile, HKS is got wave clear, but really wasn't able to stop Ricky, I guess. Oh, there was like that was Soul Burn, I think. So he took Soul Burn. Soul Burn is pretty strong. It was nerfed a little bit way back. I removed the slow for a minute, I believe. But I had to go top to help push that back. And bottom is going to lose as a result. So right now, their lanes are all pushing against us pretty heavily in spite of everything. And that's one of the reasons why is because they're lasting in the lane longer than we are. Although the levels are pretty even at this point. We're actually ahead in many cases. It is worth noting that I believe Doug Boy is long gone by now. Like long gone. We haven't seen him for a long time, so he kind of disappeared. In game, I never saw him even once. It was clear right away that he was gone. I checked the alliances and it was gray. There's not a notice for people leaving or whatever. I don't know what Ricky was doing there. And circled the puppy. So in spite of the fact of what would appear to be a situation in which we should win because of level parity, because the most important stages of the game, the experience was quite even. And the fact that quite a few of us have some kind of pushing ability, we're not actually going to do that much. That said, Ricky almost dies again. Now, let's take a look at the creep kills right now. So, High Zealot's at 23. Ricky's at 40. Bill's 22. I'm at 67. So, in spite of the fact I haven't had nearly of an easy lane like Ricky has had, and I'm using Flame Strike, which is more mana hungry, and I'm on a Strength Hero, which is not going to have as much early mana, I am picking up massively more creep score than everybody else in the game. Usually by triple. Usually by triple. So I start getting a lot of golds as time goes on. I sell it. Sometimes I think that boy's got some sass about him. He just hasn't learned to harness the sass and become a true asshole yet. Meanwhile, Bill is able to hang out here forever because Q isn't even... Q's not doing anything. I'm not sure what he's doing. But he's not even trying to push Bill out of the lane. So Bill is now regenerating quite handily because he's been allowed to attack for a while and is pushed. So I don't really know. But Thyloli, there's one thing about Thyloli, it's that he hungers for French blood. Sadly, Thyloli moves at the rate of molasses, and Ricky moves also at the rate of molasses. But Ricky had the head start. Ricky burns his mana shield before he goes. Just in case. He felt threatened. So Q and Bill are just calmly spanking minions here, not really doing anything to each other, with the exception that Bill's the one that is pushing. And Q has Death Pact, which allows him to heal, and it effectively makes him immortal. High Zealot really hasn't had an enormous amount of impact on the game, but he has managed to grab a kill, and he is pushing the lanes every now and then with Carrion Swarm. He didn't take mana regeneration this time around, and is kind of more orienting himself towards physical, while using Carrion Swarm a little bit for creep score. That said, his creep score should be a lot higher than it is, given that he was leveling Carrion Swarm early on more aggressively than he did in the last game. There is like a distinct lack of coordination in our team in terms of an intent to actually push, with Q kind of like staying around sometimes, Siloli chasing Ricky around and not really sticking around in the wave. HKS, I think, was still more intent on trying out the creeps and making sure they actually worked, because like real indie developers and modern enterprise developers, we do the whole agile development, which means none of this was ever tested at all. This is just HKS made changes, that goes live, that's it. We have transcended Blizzard. So I also killed some Hydras, I believe, and I was hoping to get a Blast Staff out of it, but it gave me a Flute of Accuracy, which was pretty much worthless for me. At this point, it became clear that he was leveling Carrion Swarm, and I needed some kind of defensive items, so I didn't die, and also so I wouldn't be pushed out of lane. You know, now that High Zealot came down here, he does manage to kill Bill, who had gotten so accustomed to standing around at low health, he thought he could just survive. Well, he didn't. That said, Thyloli almost died to towers for it, so it wasn't really that clean of a kill in the long scheme of things. To make matters worse, Thyloli does not stick around, even though nobody is there. And we have eyes on High Zealot in the middle of the map, so the push will not go anywhere. Q will also run away. This means that Ricky can just run up and free farm it without being in any danger and having not to deal with anything at all. So the lane will push a little bit, but yeah, well, you know, neither player is not really going to do anything to their base anyways, but I felt like they could have stuck and gotten some experience out of it. I don't know. Knowing when to go back is an important thing in itself, and I think a lot of people in this map are kind of scared of hanging out at half health or whatever. That would have been an instance where I think they could have gone down and cleared one or two of these camps and get some coins. That might be the optimal way to do it, because those early camps are quite easy to kill. One thing you're going to notice is that none of us do any fucking damage in melee at all. We have no physical damage whatsoever. The enemy team has Bill with his innate ability that it's not fantastic, but it's something, and I think it does magic damage, so it'll bypass some of the armor. And then High Zealot, who at this point doesn't do a lot of damage, but I believe he may be getting an engineering upgrade at this stage. So it's a little bit. I will notice that these two will hang out a lot together at this point, which is some, you know, some important synergy, because Bill's auras help High Zealot quite a lot. You'll notice he runs around quite fast, and it will also give him lifesteal, which is important for him, because at this stage he's going to be going pretty much exclusively physical, and I believe he will start pooling, or at least saving money at this point. Because of the lifesteal aura, I actually cannot do anything about them now. I'm still mostly sitting on Flame Strike, and it's not enough to push them. As you can see, I might clip them every now and then, but vast majority of the spell will do nothing. I'm going to pause, and I'm going to go AFK for a minute. I ever told you that I have constant recurring themes in my dreams where I'm not dreaming about my cats, I'm dreaming about toilets? because I have an irrational fear of toilets and plumbing. Because when I was young, all of our toilets were pieces of shit that would just constantly fucking get plugged and overflow every single time I used them. And it was always like a battle to try to get them to be unplugged before piss and shit just fucking rained and flooded the entire fucking house. And I had to deal with that constantly. By the way, this is in the same household where if you so much as made a noise, like 18 dogs would start screeching and barking incessantly because they all had to be caged up because they all tried to fucking kill each other constantly. Yeah, every day of my life has been fucking insane, man. Okay, so I forget what we were talking about, and I wasn't even gone that long. Looks to be like Q's ready to start pushing. He does have some boners. He is prickly. We're upgrading a little bit. We're doing some damage, taking down some of these outer towers. And Dank has arrived. He moves very fast. He's quickly giving Ricky some money because Ricky's a poor fag. You'll notice that Q's already got rune braces and took basically no damage. No, the towers are durable now, so this wave is not really going to do too much. It wasn't that big to begin with. But Ricky arrives and attempts to harm Q, but gives up on it. Q waddles away, but he's not really in too much danger of dying anyways. Lolly is down here and is gonna buy an item. I think that the walk speed for Golden needs to be a little faster. That is something you have to manually configure. So Lolly buys mana regeneration because, well, it's not really working out for him. Q is up here. Zilla went to go kill some minions. Creeps. His physical damage is not really that amazing right now. I'm pretty sure he does have engineering upgrade, but his innate ability does help him clear the camps. Meanwhile, HKS has been spending a long time in the camps too. He's got 2 Selby masks, and his mana regeneration is kind of crappy. And then he entered my aura and the fountain. Or that is just, yeah, that was from me in the fountain. So at this stage, I believe I have mass teleport. I actually was buying lumber at this point because I wasn't leveling fast enough to have presence on the map. I'd always planned to get mass teleport for this stuff, but you'll notice it's expensive on mana. And we start chasing Ricky, but I don't think I have storm bolts at this point. I don't do anything. We're chasing Ricky right now just to prove a point that we can. But there's nothing either of us can do to him. I don't have any kill threat on anyone. HKS might, but I don't. Q appeared just for the sake of it. So we're actually a little ahead on upgrades, but I think some of their creep spawns and maybe their tech level may be a little bit higher. But our raw upgrades are higher. More of them are spending more time in the lane than a lot of us, though. Although the only not the Siasco should I poorly. Did I even answer that? I don't know. So, Hyzilla at this point, the only thing he can really do is cast Carrion Swarm and clear the wave. And other than that, there's not really too much he can do otherwise. So, it's a little bit like me with the extension that Carrion Swarm actually does damage. 2 of them have Carrion Swarm though. So, that said, we are so fucking fat that we can still push them. It's just neither of us get killed. Oh, HKS died.
Forces are under attack.
Meanwhile, Ricky is also very... There's so much thirst in this game. Nobody can kill each other, and it's just making them more thirsty. What Ricky doesn't realize is that Q is ridiculously fat. Alright, so I came down here because Bill was still on this tower, and I had to give him some... I had to prove a point, huh? So the other thing is that it's a lot harder to make the most of the Flame Strike. It is more mana expensive. The cooldown on it is fairly high, and it has a wind up to it and does damage over time. Ishkis fucked the leaderboard by dying to the Hydra, but it's pretty obvious that I'm really far ahead. Ricky is catching up a little bit because now he's got the 2 spells. By the way, Bill died.
Forces are under attack.
I left and Bill died. I think it's gonna be hard to keep track of the map. Q standing in the Flame Strike again. I mean, honestly, for him it doesn't even matter because he can heal off of Death Pact, but he does need some minions to Death Pact. I liked watching him standing in it though. At least somebody stood in my Flame Strikes. But it became clear that as the game went on, I probably would need to change it for something. I took Stormbolt because, well, we needed something to stop Ricky from running away. But it's late enough in the game at this point that Stormbolt is most certainly not going to do a lot for me. Ricky bought the Boots of Speed instead of getting the high-speed staff. And he's also still been buying the items instead of just getting some masks or something. Ricky definitely has not been keeping track of the shop updates on the map or of the shops that already existed in the map. So good damage against the wave, but definitely not carrying Swarm. Oh yeah, something that's not very obvious in the replay. Clicking on coins as a pit lord is fucking impossible. If you're anywhere near them, it'll just move you on top of them. Like, the hit test on the model overrides that of the coin. And it's really like a pit lord specific problem. Maybe the other large units like Furion had that problem too, but it's really, really, really annoying on the pit lord. So I was using mass teleport to try to go places, but it became clear that the mana cost is going to be an issue. And also, I had no kill threat. I felt very ineffectual this time. I grabbed the Nubile Emu right away. That's where my gold went into at this stage. But we're getting pushed a lot now. We do have a huge upgrade advantage on them from the minion. But they probably have a few extra spawns. Ricky is now finally getting level 2, and we're moving on to level 3 already. But they have a few extra spawns, and their players are much more effectual at pushing than this. Thyloli and Q are really the only ones spending much time in the lanes, and Thyloli is like a chunk of single... I thought he got Serpent Wards in this game. If he does have them, he's not really using them that much. It looks like he also grabbed Brilliant Sword too. Oh! So he comes out to attack Ricky. Like, this is what I mean about Thyloli, is there wasn't really much planning on his behalf at all. He doesn't have the raw damage that Ricky has. He has some. But he already knows that Ricky has burst damage. And he walked right past into the wave and started taking wave damage on top of it. And you can see that kind of like moment of panic. What is High Zealot trying to do? That said, we finally killed Bill. It took a really long time. He basically had to give us the kill. Like, if Bill's gonna die, it's because he intentionally stuck around longer than he should have. Now, Hyzel at this point, I believe, has critical strike, it looks like, and will actually deal not really a lot, but some physical damage. But you can see that, yeah. He was able to do some damage, but HKS has, like, no health or armor. So, plus he was in the middle of the wave. Creep aggro on this map's kind of stupid. Oh, yeah, we're going to see creep aggro here. So, I'm not going to pay attention here. I'm going to go after Ricky, but when the tower goes down, all the minions go onto me. I'm actually not paying attention at this moment, so I have kind of a thigh lolly moment myself. And I also died. HKS also died. So, I wasn't paying attention and the tower died. My screen was like over here. One of the problems I'm having with this is I'm not really keeping track of where my camera is very often. There is a hotkey to bring the camera to your hero, I think, and I should really get used to using that. It's okay. There was like 4 deaths right in a row that were all incredibly avoidable. That all of those deaths were avoidable. If Lola didn't have to die, I didn't have to die, HKS didn't have to die, and Ricky literally killed himself. He literally went out of his way to kill himself. Oh my god. Like I said, when you're trying to balance anything like this, you have to keep in mind your players. And all of us are blithering idiots, apparently. I was watching all that and I was thinking maybe I should try to pay attention in this game because I'm watching the waves and it's clear that we're having some kind of disadvantage on the upgrades. And more importantly is that we're not actually really pushing against them very much. Like the upgrades wouldn't matter if more of us had more wave cleared and we're in lane. And I looked at the creep score, and I'm really far ahead, even though I just died. And then, and then I died to a turtle. And Ricky will take mass teleport. I was using it. We haven't really seen me use it too much. I haven't really been following my play that much in this game, because really. You're gonna notice I'm behind on mana a lot. I have level 7 Brilliant Sword, and my mana regeneration is not really much higher than it was when I had 20 Intellect. And level 3 Brilliant Sword. It just doesn't feel like it's any higher. It is a little higher, it most certainly is. But, as you can see, Flame Strike is really fucking expensive, and so is Mass Teleport. And Mass Teleport is something I will level in this game. And it will rise in cost to the point of fucking absurdity. Ricky just fucking runs. Anybody else, and like Ricky is like willing to fight them to the death. Oh yeah, I got Chain Death Coil. Oh, this is gonna be bad. Oh, never mind, he died. And there's one point where we chase Bill in this game, and it's gonna be one of the saddest things you have ever watched. It'll be a watch this and don't cry challenge.
Our forces are under attack.
So, we're starting to see another problem here. So, Spellbreakers are no longer spell immune. I think they're spell resistant, but tanks are still spell immune. And Demolishers are too. With the exception that tanks are a lot stronger than Demolishers. I believe tanks actually do normal damage now, don't they? Yeah, normal. That was a very early change into this map because tank rushes were so fucking dumb in this. Demolishers do siege, which is reduced to fucking everything. Except for unarmored. And, most of the fire doesn't hurt them anymore, but 3 of us are down here to kill the Hydra. And I really just wanted a blast staff, because I felt like I couldn't kill shit fast enough. And yeah, my creep score is increasing faster than Ricky is. This is a very strange game. It's a very different game than a lot of the games we've casted. In fact, I don't think any of the games I've casted are quite like this, where our kill threat is that low. People who have died because they were unnecessarily aggressive, or because they just were screwing around. Most of the time, however, what it is it's just nobody can really kill each other. And we're just like chasing Ricky around. I might die too. Chain Death Coil takes a lot of levels for it to be any good, and it's not really good for damage. It's a hybrid spell, so it's never really going to be great for healing and damage, but it's one of the only healing spells in the game, so... In hindsight, I probably should have taken something like Carrion Swarm, Mana Drain, Diffusion Flare, but I wanted to try Chain Death Coil because I'd never used it before. And the healing can sometimes be nice to have. The problem being that I have a lot of health and not really a lot of effective health. So, the healing doesn't really help me too much. So, Bill took Resurrection, which is something I've never seen before. And it certainly makes some of the pushing issues a little harder for us. Ricky died. So now that I had some CC, and with Thigh Loli there, we actually have some kill threat. Mostly because Ricky decided to stay around for so fucking long. That time he didn't run away, but Bill did. Kind of a part of the problem is, although we're getting kills on them, we can't do anything with those kills. Thigh Loli never got Serpent Ward like I thought he did. And if he has Carrion Swarm, he's not really using it. Not very aggressively, anyways. HCAS is not exactly a pushing machine. He tries to be, but he's not. And I have more mana than he does, actually, by a large amount, because I'm level 20 and he is level 16. HCAS is so far behind in levels. Holy fuck. I guess the creep camps don't give that much, because he spent a lot of time killing the creeps. So at this stage, I start being a little more aggressive. I'm going to be looking to teleport into waves, and then wiping them, and then teleporting into other waves, making money and trying to catch up on the upgrades and stuff like that. I'm also looking at the desperate need to start getting some other items. So this is still only level 1 mass teleport. I will actually go up to level 3 in this game, which I think is the only time I've seen mass teleport at level 3, maybe since we first started playing this map. Mass teleport is not a spell a lot of people in our group got until... I'm thinking of when we first started playing and we had people like Arcan and maybe Cheese Child and Mucky playing. And that's when they first showed us how busted Berserk was in these maps. And then we started making our own in-house changes to unfuck the horrendous balancing in this. And Ricky now has 2 sources of speed, and I'm not sure they stack. I don't think they do. I'm not, honestly, I don't know what Ricky is. I don't know what HKS is doing. HKS turned around like a boat. Oh, but he has Stop! Oh! Bye. That's probably one of the most ineffectual teleports in existence, but you make a statement. Oh, Ricky is back. Except I have no mana. I have no mana. And a Stormbolt is expensive.
Our hero has fallen.
So, the three of us are very fat, and Q gives us a lot of armor, but we don't really do too much right now. That was a Stormbolt, I think. It looked like it. Maybe I'm wrong. So High Zealot moves around very quickly, but nobody really does anything. Also, the mana regeneration is so bad, I can't even use my low-level Chain Death Coil most of the time. Meanwhile, their lanes are still pushing.
Our allies' town is under siege.
Bill takes Resurrection level 2 quite early, actually. There is a Kagura's Pipe of Insight. That actually does cause a noticeable jump in mana regeneration. HKS took Forked Lightning. Honestly, it didn't really seem like it did that much, but he would be able to comment more because I really wasn't paying attention.
Our allies' town is under siege.
Meanwhile, Thigh Loli evidently did not get the memo that High Zealot runs really, really fast. And now that High Zealot has Ruined Bracers, there's nothing he can do. So this is one of the... We've talked about this before, but I do want to bring it up. This is one of the things I wish I could change in this. And that's Ruined Bracers. So right now, Ricky is dealing fuck tons of damage to HKS because HKS doesn't have spell resistance. The second that you get spell resistance, like me, you basically you nullify a third of their damage because it's 33% resistance, right? So that times 3 takes you to 99. So it's effectively a third of resistance. And I like that it had to be 33. It couldn't be 30. It couldn't be 20, 25. It had to be 33. That's such a specifically Metzen number. It's honestly sickening. They just gotta put 3 in fucking everything. The college design course is really working overtime. I like the Orb of Corruption. So the second you pick up that ability, a third of your spell damage is fucking gone. And what's going to happen is that suddenly all the power bucks you put in your spells is a fucking waste. And this probably would be less of an issue if the spell cooldowns were a lot lower and mana regeneration isn't absolutely hideous in endgame. But once we reach this stage of the game, I think we're still a little behind on minion upgrades at this point. But evidently the players are the problem, right? Like Bill is giving them auras and pushing all the time. High Zealot's wave clearing and Ricky's wave clearing. If we jump and kill the players, then all that disappears and we can push and then actually work on their base. Now, the same is the issue for them, too. They're pushing against us, but they haven't been able to get into our base yet because they're not able to really kill us at key periods. Because although they do damage, they're effectively doing more damage than we are at this point, but not by much. It takes them so long to kill anybody besides Thai Loli, and Thai Loli is kind of fat now, huh? He's all strength. He's pretty fat. So it still takes a while to kill him, especially if you're not in a position to actually do anything after that. By the way, I hate the way vision in this map works. All the ramps and shit like that make it impossible to see fucking anything. And Tangle also lasts a really long time. By the way, something I believe that should be removed is the teleportation speed from the enhanced spell staff. It is something I have mentioned in I think almost every single cast, and I've mentioned for the years we've played this map. There is no reason that should be that much faster. It's it punishes basically anybody who doesn't bring 2 stuns with them. Because the spell shield will block the first stun, and then you need a second stun to actually stun them, just to stop them from escaping. There's a lot of problems in this map for sure, and some of them are low-hanging fruit. Some of them are ones I want to see a few times to really... Oh, there's the servant ward. I don't know what Thai Loli's doing, but he has a mission. Like I said, he sees Ricky. All he sees is just blood and bagels. The teleportation speed is definitely something that I think can be just removed. It is something that I have thought a long time about. You know, I've mentioned it and I've mentioned it should be removed, but the maps were always so explosive, right? Because everybody was hard cast or hard CC, and you weren't really that tanky. But since we've introduced the new items, some of which I feel like are going to get nerfed, it is clear that the teleportation speed is a problem. Like, when you're changing stuff, when you're dealing with balancing, a lot of people see balancing as just, oh, it's, you see me doing huge wide turns, that's because I can't pick up the coin. Because if I'm anywhere near the coin, I just can't click on the fucking thing. The chain death coil literally does nothing. So, when you're dealing with balance, a lot of people make the mistake that balance is just like, oh, this is overpowered, nerf it. And they look at things in an island. See, there's another case. I cannot pick up the fucking coin. I was actually screaming at HES constantly in this game about that. Like, literally screaming at him, because it was making me so mad. There was so many coins that either got juked out from under me, or that I just gave up on because I couldn't click on the fucking things. When people are doing balancing, they tend not to look at the large-scale picture. Like, in this specific case, what we have done in this game is we have introduced a couple of items that condense their inventory. I was watching this. Oh, he just barely gets away. Oh, no, he doesn't. They find Q, and they're still under the impression they can kill Q. But they can't. They might be able to kill me, though. I'm fat, but I'm not that fat. I'm dead. I don't have Blink. I will take Blink. And Blink is something else I want to talk about, but I'll get into that in due time. So like I said, they're still under the impression they can kill Q, and he's just all armor. Oh, HKS will die. Oh, but then he'll be back up again. So it has to worm his way around all the minions. So one of the things we've done in the game is we've condensed items. So right now, High Zealot has the Rune Bracers and the Amulet of Spell Shield. Now we've introduced the Nubile Emu, which condenses those two items into one. Now, it is also more expensive than them. And the reason why I have made it more expensive than them is because it gives you the added benefit of having another inventory slot. It's a much more effective use of a limited resource. Whereas I've noticed in a lot of games when it comes to sort of combination effects like this, people will just merge the costs and that's it. They won't do anything afterwards. They won't account for them being merged. Whereas I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we're actually a third more expensive, or we're 100% more expensive. I don't know how to describe it. We will go from 1,000 being the cost of two individual items into 3,000, I believe it is, for the extra cost of it being a single slot. Because in endgame, having those slots is incredibly important. So this is not something you see a lot of people do. And the reasoning is, of course, because you have that slot. But you have to also look at what exactly the slot is going to do for endgame builds. Because if you have two slots taken, and you have an extra slot taken for your Spirit Scepter, that only leaves you 3 slots for stats, effectively. Let's say just stats. Because there's not really much in the way of active items that people are currently using in this map. When it comes to progression levels, it also changes, right? Like you can get Rune Bracers a lot sooner than you can get the Nubile Emu, for example. But when you have the Nubile Emu and you have actually the power to actuate that extra slot, you get a 4th slot, that's a whole new set of stats that you can pick up, right? So then your end result is, of course, much stronger. You also can't combine items in this. Honestly, I think item combination systems are fucking stupid as hell, and it's a band-aid for a bigger progression-related design problem. But I can see the argument for bringing in item merging to build the Nubile Emu out of the two of them. I can see the argument for that, but I don't want to go down that slippery slope because I feel like better systems can be done. It's the same reason why I was really reluctant to get in deep into item systems within Lowlands of Legend, because I was still figuring out what felt to be an ideal method to do that. I know that Dota's method, the item recipes and stuff like that, is terrible. It is absolutely terrible. League does that, and it's probably my least part of the game, other than Riot imagining they can actually balance a game. Because there's a huge unnecessary learning curve for figuring out the system that Riot will try to band-aid by being like, oh, the UI will tell you what to buy and what this combines into. Well, you still now got to go through an extra UI on top of it. None of this is actually playing the game. It is only there because it's only there because their system to begin with is fucking busted. The Ricky chase is on. By the way, both of us have Blink now. And I'm going to just interject here and just say Blink needs to be nerfed. Once you take Blink, you need to have Blink to counter it. And even then, you quickly reach a stage where it just gets really stupid. But Blink is also necessitated by navigation in this map. And I'm going to propose some changes to the terrain in this map. I'm going to propose some changes to the terrain in this map, but I think I'll do that after. I'll get into that in a second. I'm talking about balance. Okay. So teleportation speed is something that felt semi-necessary to have a chance of surviving certain engagements when you were a caster because of how explosive the game was before. Where there really wasn't item options to make yourself tanky and mobile, or tanky and improve your mana regeneration or whatever, right? Like, you were stuck buying the ultimate orb, which was only 10 stat and 4k gold, you know, or Wurt Slag, which was just only damage. We've added some actual item options into this game. And the item options were also there to make it so not only that physical damage dealers are capable of existing in this map, that that also casters have options as well, because we don't have AP scaling in this. Now, scaling is one of the most major things to come out of, you know, various titles that got cloned out of Dota. So that's why we call them Dota clones, because that's literally what they are. League of Legends, Heroes of New Earth, Blizzard Dota, all this shit, they're all clones of Dota. Because Dota was successful, so they had to make it. It doesn't matter the fact that Dota wasn't the first product of its type. What matters is that Ricky. What matters is that that's what people are trying to copy paste. But Dota has a problem, and that is spellcasters in Dota, where a lot of them, any of these direct damage casters, they needed band-aids because of how the scaling was fucked against them. So what they did is they introduced items that improve their spells. So you buy the item, and what it does is it effectively replaces the spell in your spell list with a more powerful version of that spell. And then you also had the item, I believe it was called Aghanim Scepter, that that's the one that was active for a nuke, right? So Aghanim Scepter could be used to add to spell burst, or just burst in general. There are a lot of uses for Aghanim Scepter, like the Aghanim Scepter chicken, for example. But you know, there's like a lot of band-aids, right? Because casters would get outscaled by the physical based units when a lot of items started to come out in mid and end game. And then, of course, I mean, Dota in general was just a goddamn mess, start to finish. And as far as I understand, they've never fixed it in Dota 2. So I'm not really surprised. You know, the same people who couldn't make a functional map to begin with probably are not going to be able to make it functional over several years when they're in the company most well known for pandering extremely shitty and scammy microtransaction engines and DRM. And then we had League come in, and League was like, we're going to add in attack damage scaling and ability damage, or ability power, as it's called, AP. Bill is going to die. Or is he? He's very, very fast. He's wearing shoes somehow. And what ability damage is basically, in Warcraft 3 terms, if you bought something that gave you intelligence, your spell damage would go up. So then you had a choice between going damage, going defensive, or maybe utility, like Zanya's. Although Zanya's also gives you ability power as well. It's mostly there for the active that gives you a few seconds of stun and invulnerability. You can think of it as this divine shield, but not quite as stupid. So, in Warcraft 3, we don't have that. And that means that every single time we do anything that changes the way in which health is calculated, or damage is distributed, or there are ways to deal with that damage, we have to consider that there are parts of the game that do not actually change. And those are being directly influenced by whatever numbers. And that means that now that we have items in the game that offer health, in addition to a desirable thing, which was my goal. You know, I wanted to be able to let you to get a little bit tanky to end game have a little bit of survivability on top of stuff. It also means we influence a whole bunch of other things. Now, I really was not terribly fond of the way the map was before, where it was all casters, and they basically, it was like whoever blows a spell shield first and gets stunned first, you know, is dad's. That was stupid as fuck. And I'm glad we've moved away from that, but when we do that, we expose a lot of other problems on the map, right? That's why the teleportation was necessary, because it was one of your only tools for possibly escaping certain death. And I have no mana, but I'm chasing Ricky just because I know he will run. But Ricky maybe realizes I have no mana. No, he doesn't realize. He's just being French. So right now, we now have the fact that anybody can be fat enough to just escape with the teleport, even with people beating on them. And High Zealot and Emu are showing that they're a very effective duo right now. High Zealot is far from optimal build, but he will slowly get items as time goes on. But other than HKS, who, although he has health and armor thanks to Q, otherwise not really very defensive. Most members of our team, sans Thyloli, most effective members of our team, are going to be still very hard for them to actually kill. Here we have an entire army and 3 players beating on Q, unable to do anything about him. And I can just escape if I want to. They try everything. They throw everything at him. Carrion Swarm, all their damage. Ricky's out of mana. High Zealot went through half of his mana. Q just walks away. So there's not, like, again, we're this late in the game. There's not really a lot of kill threat. Oh, I might die. Nope, I'm gone. I teleported into the worst situation and tried to get in some damage, but I realized I don't do any damage. And it's not like High Zealot's rocking all those new items either. It's just, he has the spell resistance that arbitrarily reduces your damage by 1/3. And we're at a stage in the game where I think we can honestly think about removing spell resistance. Or if we're not going to remove spell resistance, I mean, if we remove spell resistance, we have to then change a lot of damage scaling in the map, because early game spells will be really oppressive, right? That's why the spell resistance exists, is to stop that early game oppression. But now when you think about it, you have situations where, let's say we have Bill, and Bill has lifesteal, okay? And then Bill has health and armor. Not really a lot of health and armor, but an amount. The spell resistance is adding another effective 33% health to him, okay? And then because of life drain, so long as he's attacking and sustaining, he has more effective health. Because now you have to go to the health that's been sustained as a result of him attacking. Which means that you need many, many, many spell casts to go through him. And he may be attacking you at that time too, especially since he is quite fast and can really stick to you. So not only does the spell... Like, I took the surgical mask, and it's almost as if my mana regeneration didn't even change. It appears to be basically the same as it was when I first bought the Khadgar's item. And here I am with Flame Strike and Stormbolt and whatever, and there's nothing I can do. And I have level 9 Brilliant Sora. I have 4 slots in my inventory filled with what would be considered endgame items. And there is actually nothing I can do standing here. And they just ignore me because, well, there's nothing they can do to me either. So that's really the main thing I want to talk about in this cast as we just watch this. This is going to be a 2-hour game, right? This is going to be a 2-hour game. We have sort of fixed the item situation. I'm actually pretty happy with the way the game looks right now. I'm not happy that there's no kill threat whatsoever, and there's a couple of other small changes I would like to change as well, but we'll go through them one at a time. So the main thing is Ricky dying. the main thing is that let's look at both teams for a second and ask, how do they make progress in the game? How do they finish the map? It's an hour into the map. What do we do? Well, we push into the base and destroy their creep spawning structures, right? Now, the bases are a little bit more tanky than they used to be, which is good. But when we are inside their base, the best way that we can push our advantage is not necessarily to kill their structures, but to kill the players. Because the players are going to kill all the minions, right? Or the players will tank the minions long enough for their minions to repop and kill everything. Now, right now, we're quite fat, right? Like, we're quite fat. We pick strength heroes, we're fat. HKS is just gonna do whatever. I'm gonna die. I should have blanked out instead of healing. But I didn't realize he even had critical strike until that point. And HKS can literally do nothing but cast some spell every now and then. And that spell is only doing a couple hundred damage now because of the magic resists. And then it just gets life drained away. Which, I mean, that's the purpose of life drain, right? Like lifesteal. I'm not going to argue and say that, oh, we should nerf lifesteal, because that's not the problem. Lifesteal in itself is not the problem. The problem that we've reached right now is, by sort of fixing the items, where we've pushed the game away from the burst spell damage sort of meta into, I kind of viewed it as a sustained meta, but not really. But it's more like we've made physical viable now. And I did sort of see this coming. It's not like I didn't see this coming. Okay, so this is one of the things I want to point out. For a long time, I've debated about Avatar because of where we were at before, where if you were without spell immunity, if you were without spell shield, you could be bursted and killed very quickly because it was pretty hard to become fat. That's why you saw people picking these strength heroes, was for the innate spell resist. And what would happen before is you'd reach a point where they would start pooling tomes. And the tomes would therefore make them extremely fat. And then they could start dealing damage as well, and then they would gain armor as a result of the agility. And then suddenly they could do physical damage, and then that's when physical damage became viable. Is when you had so many tomes, you had hundreds of strength and agility and intellect. And then suddenly your mana regeneration wasn't as bad anymore, which meant that now casters could also sustain. And that was obviously an enormous problem because people would then be just running back and forth to the fucking shops picking up tomes all the time instead of playing the map. And you would enter this annoying arms race where if you didn't lock down the tomes, somebody would hit a point where they scaled so hard that they could just kill the entire team. Right? Any of these maps with tomes in them are all fucked. And anytime we see a map that has tomes in it, we just have to assume that the author is a complete blithering moron. They just didn't really think things through. There's the one map that they play now and then. It's one of those. It's like this. It's a Dota clone, and it's a map where some of the heroes you just start buying tomes on, and even a couple of agility tomes just make them unbelievably busted as all hell. But even that's a map where even strength tomes will make you busted as all hell, just because of the way the damage goes up and how tanky it can make you. And the problem with spells is that now that you can build some items, you got items to build. When you get those items, the effective health offered by the magic resistance becomes way, way more stronger because it's a percentage of your health, right? So that item only becomes more valuable the more health you've got. Early in the game, the 33% of magic resist is the difference between getting two-shotted by Carrion Swarm and Shockwave. But in late game, it's the difference between like 1,000 or more mana of damage very easily. where a lot of these heroes are not going to have 1,000 mana they can blow just to take a little bit of health off of one unit, right? Now, like I said, when we first started talking about this stuff and trying to get into this, is Ricky got stuck in a corner. Our goal isn't to make a perfectly balanced map because we're probably not going to be able to do that. But we want to make the map at least enjoyable, right? Now we're sitting here and we're looking at a 2-hour game. And I didn't feel too bad about this game at all. We are stuck. Like, this is like a stalemate. We're kind of stuck. But to me, it didn't feel really bad. Like, when I'm in a cast, I focus on the technical stuff, and I always look for my critical arm first. Because that's the purpose of a commentary, is to be critical. It's to analyze, and analysis will always be critical. Every single time. And what we're critical of is the interactions that are being exposed by allowing items in the map. And now we are looking at ourselves and we're saying 33% magic resist is too fucking much. And the early game is evidently a bag of dicks in its own. But we're at the stage where we wish we could have an AP system, like League of Legends, and have scales based in part off of AP instead, because then that would help fix early game damage a little bit. And also that we wish we could change the hard-coded magic resistance. By the way, Thyloli is, I can't really save him. But I try to. Eventually they stop chasing. There's nothing stopping them from chasing. And he goes back in! He wanted to die. He wanted to die. So I was like, fuck this. I'm out of here. I've got nothing. So I go back. He sees Ricky. I gotta have Ricky. I gotta have Ricky. Hi, Zealot. Get some lumber. So, High Zealot will start getting some actual items now. He's got the eggplant. He's got Nobel Emu. He'll be starting to work, I believe, on the axe or something soon. Bill's got the axe. So, Bill, I felt was quite well balanced in this. He was very fat and he was definitely hard to kill, but with some dedicated effort we could kill him. On the flip side, even though he was all auras, if you tried to tank him, you would probably die eventually. So he felt like he had relevance. Not really a lot of kill threat because he was all auras, but relevant enough that, by the way, I want to change these areas. I want to change a lot of the terrain on this map, actually, which is going to dramatically change the entire fucking map. So I kind of want to think a little bit about it first. But I think HK said trees regrown now. So Avatar is now like, I mean, it always was too strong, but Ricky gets pinned amidst a large man and dies in a fire. Avatar's spell immunity is insane. It's like, I think it's been nerfed already, but it lasts a really long time and there's this, you can't engage it anymore. You can't do anything anymore. Avatar kind of makes sense, sort of, in the Warcraft 3 melee, because you literally can make coffee and have lunch in the time it takes for 2 units to kill themselves in Warcraft 3, because Blizzard felt that gaming is too difficult. And, I'm not sure what's going on here. I thought Loli could use his minions to try to body block Bill, but instead he's gonna die terribly. Will he get away? Oh, he's too slow. He could have tried to portal out, but he didn't want to try to. And what Thy Loli was trying out a whole bunch of different spells and shit in this, so I fucked up my flame strike. He should have really like stuck close to maybe Q or someone who was in the lane more often. I'm gonna fuck this up too. I have some embarrassing moments. Not this time, but there are other times I get trapped with the turtles and almost die because I busted my teleport accidentally. So where I'm getting at with this whole balance and the spell resist thing is I would like to see a better solution to spell resist and AP scaling. Like, that's what I would like to see in the long run. Obviously, implementing that kind of a system means literally revamping all the spells and everything. But it also means rethinking a lot of stuff too. But it wouldn't even need to be a big change. It could be like 1-to-1 int is added to your spell damage, right? That's a little something. And then we can change how the items are a bit scaled a little bit. League obviously does it based on a multiplier per the spell. Like, some have less, some have more. Typically AoE damage has less scaling. Single target has more, you know, that kind of stuff. If you do that, then you shouldn't change the items as they are right now, health-wise. When my plan is actually to recommend to nerf... the health on the item is just a little bit. Very small. Like, I might bring the head barrel down to 20 health instead of 25. And Kagar's pipe down to 5 from 7. That might be the extent of my nerf. Like, just very small, right? But that's in the scope of what's happening right now. Ricky's gonna get away, by the way. Oh, what's gonna happen here is gonna be funny. Never mind, this isn't it. There's so many times this shit happens. There'll be one part I teleport into there and it's like an instantaneous death. So what I'm doing, oh right, because I thunderbolted a minion instead of Ricky. That's what happened. HKS is going somewhere. They're giving chase. All right, so I talked a bit about balance. We can talk a little bit as time goes on because the map evolves a little bit. But that's kind of the problem we're seeing right now, right? Is it's hard to do anything against anybody with any sustain right now because of how much effective health the magic resist is adding to them. Now, Thy Loli has no magic resist and no defensive items or whatever, right? He had a little bit of health because of his high base health, but they killed him pretty quickly as a result, right? Also, he was out alone and not following what was going on again. But he's also in a spot where it's like Thy Loli basically has to take Blink in order to escape them now. That's the situation that we're in, where you need to have Blink or be as fat as Q, for example. A lot of builds are just not viable. A lot of ideas are just not viable. A lot of the spells. There was a lot of times in this map I wanted to take health drain, especially early on, to deal with their poke. But I couldn't see a world in which life drain would be any useful because of how fast they were moving around, how much CC there was going along, and the fact that the health drain wouldn't be enough to heal me through the damage. Early on, it probably would have been okay, but once we reach this point, it's not so much. And now we're going to see something unbelievably stupid. How about that 47 armor? How about it? Yeah, if I went near them, I would just be forced out. But he has so much armor. But he also can't do anything either. So, I forgot what else I was going to talk about. I kind of want to get more coffee. We're going to be here for a while. Yeah, the builds. Thyloli's in a state where he can't really do anything anyways. He's basically like... He went wards, and I don't think they're maxed out, but... He himself has to stay alive long enough to be able to plant wards and have the wards deal damage. I mean, the wards are more like a wave clearing thing anyways. Or at least like a support damage. We did finally kill the emu. Because he was low on health or something coming down here still. I'm gonna chase Ricky. That just disappeared. At some point, I like give up chasing Ricky because I can't kill him anymore. It's the blank is gonna be nerfed as well for sure. It's a necessary spell right now to survive, but I think we can see a world in which blink is not nearly as strong as it is. Most certainly not as easy to get as it is. Right now, blink is only 5 lumber. Once you get 5 lumber, that's it. It's a 100 mana spell that basically is one of the most powerful spells in the game. At this stage, I'm going to get rid of Flame Strike and switch to Chain Lightning. And I actually feel like we're going to suffer a lot from this change because our wave clear is not really amazing for what's happening right now. Thyloli will also eventually rage quit the map at some point. I'm not sure when, but I think it will be soon-ish. And let's take a look at our kills. So Ricky is kept competitive, but very far behind me. He hasn't fallen further behind, but that gap is still there. And I've been able to achieve that with almost exclusively Flame Strike versus Carrion Swarm and Shockwave. So when I took Chain Lightning, it was specifically a decision to switch to killing players. Because we were not able to push because they were able to counter push more effectively than we were. Only Q had the ability to stay in the lane for more than a while. And I wanted to be able to kill Ricky and then push. And also I had noted that the life drain, the sustain game was quite strong in their team. And I wanted to have more direct damage to have more kill threat against them. So it's specifically there to kill players. Now I can do that because in about a minute or two the shop will regenerate its shit and I'll have it back. I believe I will take tier 2 mass teleport or already have it around this point. At this stage I'm going to grab 2 surgical masks and I'm going to anticipate that this helps me out, but it's actually not really going to. My mana regeneration is not absolutely horrendous from mid-game, but you'll notice with Chain Lightning and Mass Teleport and Death Coil, I'm already down half my mana. One of the important things to note about League of Legends and similar of these titles is that it takes a lot to actually drain your mana. Early on, you can burn your mana quite quickly, but once it reaches mid and end game, mana regeneration isn't really a big issue because you take either Athena's Holy Grail or the, what was it, the Morellicom or whatever. They didn't nerf those because of how effective they were, but they were still quite good at mana regeneration, and you could still get a lot of base mana that, depending on what you were doing, you could you could still have a lot of mana. Plus there was always blue buff. If you really had to have more mana, you had blue buff. Now at this stage, with Avatar, Hyzella has 3,000 health. And he did take a God Orb. Those do exist. It is the spell Not the spell, the attack speed that he wants. And he has the cat spots too. So just a lot of agility. And mana regeneration in this map is so much harder, and the spells are more expensive. So the balance is definitely very different. Early game, I feel like the casters are still king, right? Late game, they used to be king because you could do both jobs, wave clear and hero damage at once. And that was because health is not as common, right? The items and the solutions there. Plus, you had to spend 2 of your inventory slots just to have the solutions to deal with spells. So, but you still had cases where people might build like a hyper tank, like Q, right? And then they would just do whatever. But now you can do that, and you can do a little bit of physical damage. So that's great. I feel really good about that. I feel like that I don't want to change that, right? I want those builds to be viable. And I feel like, for example, again, Bill is in a great spot, and Q is... I don't know. The armor bonus he gets is kind of crazy, but they can out-sustain him anyways, I believe. Oh, what the fuck's going on down here? So, Ricky didn't even stop to kill the creep there. It would have been some more free gold. You know, what I feel like is now we have the interactions that we gotta hammer out somehow. Because early game, when you take the spell resist, it basically patches the hole of physical damage being weak, spell damage being strong, because your spell damage scale is so much harder than your physical damage early on. And in the equivalent titles that we were referencing, like League of Legends, you have the runes that grant minion damage or base damage. You have the Vampiric Scythe or whatever. You know, the 1400 component for Infinity Blade. I can't remember that sword that gives like 45 base damage or whatever. Usually when you grab that, that's a big damage spike because all your active abilities also will scale off of attack damage, and then your base damage hits harder. It's easier to last hit. You know, that's usually a damage spike that you will see ADCs really start to become super good at. If they hit that spike early, then they can really dominate even the dual lane against that with a support, right? The difference in the ADCs being one having that 45 damage sword and one not having can be quite major. Unless you have supports that are very, very good at disengaging or sustain or it's a passive lane. But in an active lane, that damage spike can be a really big deal. In this, we don't really have that until we reach about this point in the game, an hour and a half in, where High Zealot finally has enough items to really be threatening. And Bill has what's looking to be a more and more complete inventory, right? He's still using a lot of intermediary items. And as a result, Bill is not as threatening to us right now. He's still very durable and sustains, can move around, but he doesn't have Avatar. He doesn't have the standing power that High Zealot does. He's not as fast, you know. An effort was made. You see, Ricky is once again in a terrible, terrible spot. But this time he has Blink, so he's just suddenly a full screen space away. And Thyloli is sitting there with his hands on his dick and his pants down. And he doesn't have a Frenchman to plug it into anymore. Oh, by the way, that's tier 3 mass teleport. And that costs 300 fucking mana. My plan was to assassinate Ricky when other people are fighting him and then push. But when your spell costs 300 mana to get there, most of your mana is gone before you get a chance to do anything. And now most of us cannot fight High Zealot except for Q, just by extent of being fat. Because it just takes so long for him to kill. From Avatar, what I would do is I would reduce the cooldown and then reduce the duration very significantly to like 5, 6, 7 seconds. Same with Safeguard. And then don't have the cooldown be really long. But don't nerf the cooldown 1-to-1 either. But I don't know yet. Like, that's something I've thought about for a while. You know, if I nerf Avatar, what are the effects going to be? Why am I nerfing it? Well, right now, it's like when he uses Avatar, half of our team literally can't do anything to him. We're just stuck there. It invalidates our entire skill set. And that just feels really stupid. Spell immunity in general has always felt really bad. But spell immunity was necessitated by the sheer abundance of hard CC, burst damage, and the fact that you didn't have as much effective health back then as you did now because it was so much harder to build health. Unless, again, you were stacking tomes. So you would see Avatar coupled with Divine Shield coupled with tomes, right? Like, then you have thousands and thousands of health as a caster with all that CC, and then you also have defensive options to counter all their CC. And then what we saw was Sleep. Sleep got set to be able to hit invulnerable targets. And that feels like another band-aid for a shotgun wound where we're introducing one problem to try to fix another problem, right? Because now you're spell immune or divine shielded or whatever, but now you're slept as well. And then Sleep had this insane range on it when it was leveled up on top of it. That was also extremely unnecessary and just further punished anybody who wanted to do what High Zealot's doing right now. At this stage, it looks like Thigh Lolly is gone. Oh, no, I saw his creep score go up. He's still here. All right. We're losing this. Like, there's nothing we can do at this point. And I will give him some money to buy a barracks, but I'm like stuck trying to get rid of Bill. And with Bill, I felt fairly even. He definitely could kill me if I stood and fought, but as long as I didn't burn mass teleport and had mana, I was able to at least do something to him. But it's very clear that he will out-sustain me in most cases because my mana regeneration is not that good. Keeping in mind, my spells are costing 300 all over the place. Like, Chain Lightning is 200 something, Chain Death Coil was a lot, and the Mass Teleport is now 300 mana. So I used Mass Teleport to come in and get behind Bill, and oh, well, yeah, we did kill him. It was almost my entire health pool just to do that. And we had Thigh Lolly there too. And the whole horde. But yeah. Mana, honestly, I don't know how to balance mana. I don't like working around mana systems. They are awkward as fuck. And I feel like a lot of other corporate developers feel the same way because we have big sweeping changes to mana systems. Again, like what Riot did with League of Legends where they were trying to nerf mana regeneration. But also even Final Fantasy XIV where they tried to homogenize all the mana and the mana costs because they had the same issue where spells were basically free at high level because everybody's gear was so insane and the costs didn't really increase with them. So when we look at a map like this and it's like, oh, I teleport into attack Ricky. I've already got nothing. Like that guy, now I just have to leave. Ricky is always burning these items instead of getting his own mana regeneration. So I'm gonna get more coffee and we'll continue this discussion because I do have a strategy for this. I do. Okay, got some more coffee. Had a nibble to eat. This is gonna be a long video. Oh boy. Okay, so we've been kind of looking at the game from our perspective. Now let's look at the game from their perspective, from the Emu, his Zealot, and a Frenchman. So they're kind of in not really that different of a spot than what we're in, with the exception is that they're definitely having a pushing advantage, right? But they're kind of in the same circumstance where their damage is not really sticking because they're not really able to kill us. Every now and then people die, but it doesn't amount to much. Also, Ricky's a goddamn pansy. But man, he's so fucking fat. I have no mana, I can't do anything. Oh, High Zealot appeared. Normally, I'd be in trouble, right? Nope, I'm gone. Bye. That's what you call a calculated risk. Now, he could have gotten 2 crits in a row and I might have been dead, but I never saw him there either. And I took that risk diving into there, knowing that I had a good chance of escaping even if somebody else was there. Ricky is already back down here and already clearing another wave. The only way to come back down here and pursue Ricky if he wanted to counter push is either to run all the way down the wave or use mass teleport. So while we have a little brief inactivity here, I want to talk about some of the things I would like to change on the map. So I want there to be ways to get into the different lanes from each other. They would be kind of long ways. So I'm thinking a passage that goes down here and then into this spot, and then this kind of a passage that cuts through here and into here. With the mid lane, it's a little harder because I think that if you can just go from bottom and south in the mid lane, it could make a big mess. So I would kind of like to see some other considerations. There's a lot of terrain in the map where the trees are in that you can get into. And it's annoying when a player can hide in there with Blink. And it's also annoying when you're trying to go somewhere with Blink and you get stuck in there and you can't get out. I want all that to be fixed. I think you can just change the fucking what's it called? God damn it. The collision on the trees. But I'm not 100, I'm pretty sure you can. Not 100% sure, but I'm sure you could. I feel like that if you wanted to connect the middle lane to the bottom and top lane, it should all be guarded by creep camps or something. Oh, I've already noticed that the creep camps and the minion waves sometimes get into a kerfluffle. Particularly the boners in this area here often end up fighting. In fact, that's probably why there's a gold coin here. Is they end up fighting each other for some reason. I think flyers or something cut into there and get aggro. You'd want to avoid that if you're trying to change around and add side lanes. Adding in side lanes would be a tremendous change to the map, but it would also offer some more navigational and split pushing options, and also the options to go into lanes and try to confront people in those lanes without having to go all the way through your base. The problem is, it's also going to weaken push strength a little bit. And that's sort of the problem that the enemy team has right now, where they bought all the special items, special units that were added to try to make a push, which is precisely what they're there for. The problem is that this actually is not going to be very effectual, and I think it's going to be kind of their fault. It's not going to be effectual. Ah, yes, there they are. They're fighting. It's not going to be effectual because a lot of them aren't going to support it except for Bill right now. So, HKS forgot to change these units, so a bunch of them are actually still spell immune. The spellbreakers, the tanks are always spell immune, but spellbreakers and stuff like that will be spell immune as well. And it's a small thing, but it is a little thing. As you can see, Bill is not nearly as capable of escaping us. Or is he? No, and he's dead. Bill dies. Ricky goes down here to push middle. Thought Lily's down here with enemy dead. I will go out on a limb and say, yeah, go ahead and set the damage cap for Carrion Swarm to the same as Shockwave. I think HK said it was double. It can be changed. It can be the same. It's a small thing, but it's one of the things that kind of looked in this map is that Ricky was able to fully clear an entire wave so fast. And I think the damage cap can help alleviate that a little bit. I mean, it's supposed to be wave clear and all that, but oh, whoa! You niggas got juked! But is HKS going to escape? Probably not. Oh, but I've arrived! French!
Our hero has fallen.
I don't know why we're fucking in a high zealot. Avatar lasts like 13 years. Oh, yes. Here I am, trapped behind a turtle and a woody place. So I try to teleport out, and then I interrupted accidentally. Now I'm in a real kerfluffle. So I try to escape. But the turtle wants more. I actually could just kill the turtle, but I was scared of the large one. You can't even see him behind the trees there. But the enemy group right now, I think he actually took cleaving attack, it almost looks like. Kind of a part of the problem that they have is that they bought the special minions and nothing happened with them. Only Bill was pushing with them, and they didn't do anything with them. Nothing happened. And that's, yeah. I mean, coordination, etc. But it's also that you see how hard it is for them. You see how hard it is for them to get kills on us too, right? Because I can just blank out. And HCAS is probably the easiest to kill at this point other than that Lily. At this stage, I gave away all my money. Otherwise, I might have considered buying Khadgar's bongs. I was just like, well, I'll just farm more money. But they start hatching a plan to try to force this game to end. And that is demolish. I'm pretty sure he has demolish at this point. So at this point, I was like, well, it makes sense that we try to do this because we can't kill them. They can't. Because, yeah. And of course, he has Avatar, and he can teleport while avataring. He does cancel it. I think that might have been an accident. But the other option would be to split push like we are, but since you can just instantly clear all the waves, split pushing doesn't really work. All that has to happen is Ricky just has to go back. And we're after Bill here, but he's too fucking fast. And I have no mana. At this stage, if Bill wanted to, he probably could stand and fight. I'm trying to body block him. Bye. So we start rebuilding because we did have a lot of money. And Ricky was inside a hole there. You can get into there. Ricky was in there. You shouldn't be able to get in there. Like all the holes really just need to be plugged, especially ones you can't even see into. And their big push still didn't accomplish anything in the end. But they did take a lot of gold out of our banks by doing that. That's 4,000 gold. I'm at 700 creep score. High Zealot's catching up because I guess he took cleaving attack, and since nobody can do anything, interactively avoiding him, now he's at the stage where he can use physical damage to actually clear the waves. So this is fine. Like, I got no problems with this whatsoever. Except for this. This is stupid as all fuck. And this is really unnecessary. I mean, it demolishes dumb in general and also shouldn't exist, but it's also spell immunity. Like, Bill tries to follow him. And Bill almost dies, and he's pretty fucking tanky, as it should be, right? I just ignore Bill. I go for Ricky. Even though I definitely could have killed Bill if I stuck back to fight him. So we rebuild the structures, but this is part of the winning process, is draining all their money, so I can't do this anymore. The process of rebuilding is annoying because you have to shuffle your inventory. Of course, now there's so much shit going on, and the shit's on fire. There's not really a lot we can do. But like, we need to get kills on them, right? Like, what's pushing it now is the fact that they can't ignore us, and they can just kill the buildings. Now, I thought, well, I could do the same. I could just take Avatar and attack speed and demolish and suicide their building, but it is dumb. It's not fun to play against. It's not fun to play. It's just really stupid. But at this stage, how else are they supposed to end the game, right? Like, they're not really in too much threat of dying to us unless they really get caught out inside of our base, mind you. And all of us are there. And like, there's periods where I'm just like standing there and they're just standing there and we just like ignore each other because there's nothing that can be done. And it kind of like, it highlights kind of the problems that we made just in general by fixing things, right? Because it's showing a lot of the other problems in the map that exist. They've always been there. Demolish has always been a problem. It's something we've been seeing time and time again with the Divine Shield demolish shit. That's why the sleep thing was added to begin with, as opposed to just nerfing Divine Shield like it should have been and removing demolish like it should have been. Like, these are problems that boilerplates were attempted as opposed to fixes, right? And those are pretty easy to fix. Remove demolish. It shouldn't have existed to begin with. I wonder what the cooldown on Death Pact is, because holy fuck, he healed so much health. So what I propose for Blink is either return it to being a 10 level ability, or you can get an ultimate ability. I think is acceptable too. Its range should never be that high. I think the mana cost is all right for a final mana cost, and you can reduce the cooldown if you really want. But the range should be at maximum, like half of what it currently is. If you reduce the cooldown, then I would not even... If the range is 1,000, the cooldown shouldn't be any higher than like 600. In the game, it felt really strange because I'm teleporting all over, clearing as hard as I can. And once I take Chain Lightning, a lot of that seems to go down. But we can't do anything. Like, there's a lot of time. You can't really see it here, but there are a lot of times where I can just about stun someone and they just go out of line of sight. Like, it just goes dark on them because of all of the ramps all over the place. They make it really, really annoying to chase down these lanes. Because someone will be right next to you and suddenly they're out of line of sight. Not to speak of that the line of sight can be quite low at nighttime too. I have to try a body block them because there's like nothing else I can do. You know, Q is like, I'm fat. Really, really, really fat. The spell shield's back up. Well, guess I'll leave. because there's nothing else I can do. I should have just taken Carrion Swarm, to be honest. I took Chain Lightning because I really wanted to have another way to blow their spell shields. Yes, I teleported back. I went back, got mana, teleported back, came back. I had no mana again. I knew we were going to lose this game. It was just a matter of time, but I really, like, even though I was tired, I wasn't really fatigued. So I was still trying to make stuff happen. I kind of thought maybe if they get really greedy and we can kill all three of them, I can dive their base and try to kill all the minions and push that way, but it really wasn't going to happen. Like, Ricky now was starting to build strength and had actually items because they probably told him to get items. And now it was no longer possible for me to kill Ricky. And since I was trying to fix mana regeneration... Yeah, I mean, the base intelligence is a big deal too, right? Like, you're a strength hero, you can tell Ricky's base intelligence is a lot higher, but man, with the two surgical masks, you would have expected at least some kind of middle ground. What we have instead is Ricky's mana regen isn't even that great. It's just he has more base mana, so he's able to last a little longer. And we killed Bill, that's great. In a minute, he'll be back, and we won't be even out of our base by that point. Not because, well, I mean, the tanks are magic immune too, right? So it takes a while to kill the tanks, but tanks have 1,000 health on demolishers. I think, doesn't Shockwave, yeah, Shockwave would probably hit the both of them. I've never really used Shockwave because I'm used to before when Shockwave and the deformation would cause your system to hardlock. And I get a lot of stalls and stutters in the game, constantly. It's always hitching on me. It'll hitch for like half a second or longer, and then my camera gets thrashed around. It's not really doing it in the replay this time, which is kind of strange. I probably should have just taken Carrion Swarm or Shockwave, one of the two. I was looking for options in the spells, and I was trying to think of what can I do to improve our situation or increase my kill threat. It basically came down to replace Blink with another stun, but even if I stun them forever, my cooldowns are too long and my mana regeneration isn't good enough. So one of my ideas for trying to improve this a little bit was to lower the cooldowns of max level spells, but only maybe some of them. I'd have to look at them to know what they are, but then that way if you did have mana regeneration or high base mana, you could expand it a little more. Probably not like Carrion Swarm or Shockwave. Maybe Chain Lightning, you know, maybe Shadow Strike, for example. No, those kinds of spells, so that if you're in a position to use them more consistently, you can make some use of them. But not the direct AoEs, right? Because they're already pretty strong as it is. HK's got the 3 bongs, and his mana regeneration still isn't that good. There's so many towers. Like, if we improve the mana regeneration and lower any of the cooldowns so that you can do damage more and more consistently, then that'll help you target the effective HP problem, right? So if we change the HP values on items to reduce some of that growth, you know, we're going to affect the equation with that too. But Avatar is definitely something that is retarded. By the way, he takes Divine Shield later on too. Oh yeah, I forgot I even had the horn, honestly. I guess I must have been tired. I think I forgot I ever even picked it up. I never even looked at that part of my inventory. Because I don't remember seeing HKS's dialogue. I must have been focused. I think I was looking at the towers that Hyzella was building. He's trying to block off all the minions so they can launch a giant Giga Wave. See, like, Ricky doesn't have much kill threat against me. It's Hyzella, which is perfectly fine, right? Because he has the items, he should be a threat. But for the same reason I can't kill Ricky, Ricky can't really kill me. It's because of Blink. I mean, if we really want to get into stuff, I would remove all point and click and make them all skill shots, right? Like Stormbolt and everything like that. And then what the fuck is going on? Yeah, there's a lot of little changes I would make, right? I mean, that's a major change, of course. But, you know, at that stage, I'd be like, okay, Hicks, make it an Unreal 4 instead. And then it won't be a fucking top-down. But, we enter this situation, which is the extreme of the health bloat problem, right? Where he has a lot of armor, and even without the buff, they don't do any damage to him. Emi is trying to get in to do something. I can't even get in there. Oh, he also has reincarnation! All the minions are stuck because it's reached the pathing limit. It's a cage match. It's a cage match that Bill might even lose. What the fuck is going on? He just fallen! Bill can't escape the cage match! Oh my god, this game is retarded. Holy shit. Hyzella is just like, I guess I'll go somewhere else. Q's like, I guess I'll restore health. He is running out of mana though. Eventually he'll run out of mana. Meanwhile, I went down the mid lane because they're all in top lane. Split push. And then I found there was a lot of towers. A lot of the towers died, though. It was more like I didn't have a way to do anything, so I was going to go back. Meanwhile, Ricky is not even using his spells very well. He's like targeting the edges instead of the bulk. And then Ricky almost dies. That said, there are a lot of towers. They are on a ledge. There's not that many minions. I really, really wanted Ricky, but then the towers did a lot. Now, here, it's not obvious in the replay, but Ricky is flipping in and out of line of sight just constantly because of the wards and the ramps. Honestly, another thing I would consider doing is getting rid of the fucking ramps in the entire map. Because it's really frustrating to deal with this constantly. It's really, really frustrating. I think Hyzella just went up to our base. Meanwhile, the onslaught is released, and Bill provides emotional support. What I mean, if you have health bars up, good luck seeing anything. There's the hitch. And I'm out of mana. Guess I'll chill out for a minute, huh? What? 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 What the fuck was that? And so it begins. So it begins. Bill revives the units that have just died. And then there is another stutter. Q died. But then he was alive again. Bill can do naught but watch as Q leaves. Actually, I thought Lolly was here for a while. I thought he had left by now, but I guess not. Oh, he took a balanced axe. I think he's emotionally dead inside, though. We don't see him doing too much. He was, he's sitting there, kind of watching. Observing. With his blast staff. Shooting a knight. Oh, he's casting Volcano. Oh, there we go. He moves in. I do like that there is absolutely no casting animation for that. Because it probably doesn't call an animation that's general. It might call a Firelord specific animation, as opposed to something like channel. Oh, Hex died. Or did he? Nope. Bill will one day get a chance to do something. That Carrion Swarm did nothing to Bill at all. Bill's inventory hasn't even changed in the last half an hour. He never got the bigger items or more axes. He might have pooled his money into High Zealot or something. Meanwhile, High Zealot is, if I had the mana, I could have killed him. Ricky makes an effort, but as you can see, Ricky is just as fucked. So the masks, honestly, try 200%. Or just, I don't know. Maybe just get rid of... No, I don't know. I would say get rid of masks and just put it on int. Or just get rid of them and make an intermediary int item or something. I think there is already one. We are pushing out a little bit at this stage. Thylolly built some towers here and there. And when he's there pushing, he's got 500 creep score now. I'm at 828. High Zealot's exceeded me now. You can tell that ever since I dropped Flame Strike, my creep score growth has dropped a lot. Up to the point that Ricky has almost caught up to me now. And I haven't been able to make Chain Lightning work into more kills. I mean, I do have 10 kills, but so does High Zealot, right? For a 2-hour game, you would have expected there to be more kills. I mean, look at the other games that had like 20 kills in a fraction of the time, really. But when you hit endgame in this, everybody becomes very, very fat. because of the items, evidently. But the spell stopped scaling an hour and a half ago. You're almost looking at needing that Dota solution or making an AP solution if you want to stick with the current kind of stat growth in this game. Now, Thought Lily has definitely got the right idea here because Volcano would be normally used for this. But Volcano's damage is not really that high. And also too many things interrupt. Which is why, honestly, I would say change all abilities into skill shots. But obviously that's a lot of work, right? Like, then you're talking about basically redesigning the whole fucking thing. But that's why those things got added, is to address stuff like this. Because when you make spells too powerful and they're point and click, it's so much less effort just to point and click, right? You start getting into the issue of, you know, High Zealot can't kill us either. He's gotten a few lucky kills in from crits or whatever, but this is what happens if he doesn't have spell immunity or divine shield. He's just fucking dead. He's just fucking dead. There's two of us there. There's three of us there. He was just chain CC'd and that was it. That's what the map always looked like before. Now I told him to push top, and I went after Ricky because he had no health, and I dove behind where I thought the towers were, and Bill just happened to be there. Q made an effort. But the towers do a little too much. Or do they? Bill's still gonna die! What the fuck? Oh. Oh. Oh no, Q. 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 Oh! An effort was made. If I had killed Ricky in that one point, we actually could have been in a really good spot. But luck was not on my side, apparently. Because we've got Siege there. A lot of the towers died. And then they wouldn't have been able to kill Q. We actually could have turned that into a really good push. At least until High Zealot came back up. But he's only up now, right? We could have probably put some damage on their base. At least enough that, you know, we could have made up a little bit for this bottom. Unfortunately, there was an emu. And there's not really any guarantee that would have killed Ricky anyways. Okay, well, we're nearing the end of this replay, but I guess I'll save really breaking down the points I wanted to make for it, because it's hard to really talk about that when I'm watching. I just really wanted Ricky. Again, I just ignore Bill. It's Ricky that I want. He's French. We just really want Ricky. Bill just goes back up. High Zealot runs around. And I'm like, yeah, it's not worth chasing him. Oh, yeah, the Acolytes are still there when the building gets canceled. I thought they were broken again. Bill stuck around and died. Hey, you know, normally this would be great because they're all dead. So that's my thought, right? Like, let's go top and push. At this stage, it still hasn't clued in that I should have fixed my inventory. So the little bit of mana regeneration I could get from the Khadgar's Bong, I don't have. Plus, it cost a lot. It was a lot of money to buy those upgraded minions. And as you can see, my creep score is not like it used to be. So, yeah, pushing's a little hard. I was getting kind of, you know, tired of the game at that point, where I didn't really see like a good chance to win anymore. So I wasn't being as aggressive about teleporting as I really could have been, but it was also like I was trying to think of what I should do. Because these guys were constantly coming down here. And I saw High Zealot was really low. I was like, well, Avatar lasts a really long time, but... And then I might have been able to pursue him, but I got stuck behind the fucking trees instead. This shouldn't be possible. Like, how do I fit behind there? Ricky is pretty fat. The stage, I gotta shuffle my inventory. I back some buildings. Then I gotta shuffle around to pick up my fucking surgical mask. I was waiting to build those. I was waiting for them to leave and for the lane to push out a little bit. And I like try to click on the. At this point, I was getting so fed up with those coins, I started ignoring them. See, you can see me. Every now and then I come over there and try to click on it until I give up. And then when they're there, it's like, well, I guess I'll leave. Yeah, I needed to get rid of that lion horn. I forgot I even had that. I really was not paying attention. Also was not playing well where I didn't land my stun often. But I wasn't going to kill Ricky anyways, he was too fat. And off I go. Yeah, so he bought like the worst leg and shit to raise his base damage, so demolished it more to the building. Ricky is going to leave. Or is he? I teleported in just to interrupt Ricky's teleport. We can speed this up a little bit. It's pretty obvious what happens at this point, I think. High Zealot doesn't have his shields up and he dies because he's not that tanky. Oh, yes, the Great Emu escape. There's going to be a period here where I think Q could have hit him and killed him, but didn't. He was right there, I believe, because Q thought he was going to die. And what happens is the shield comes back up, and then that's that because I've got no mana. There's like nothing I can do. And a lot of the time, I might have mana and I could cast him, but then he goes out of line of sight. Like, I could seriously consider adding... Oh, well, I wanted to add an item that was, like, pure int. And none of the other shit. And have that at, like, 4K, 5K. Just like a stick of int. For endgame casters. But I'll talk about some of our ballot stuff in just a moment. What we can do. Some ideas I have. I mean, overall... I know it sounds like I'm just bitching about the game. But overall, I actually feel pretty positive about this. I mean, there are definitely problems, of course. But this was still a 2.5 hour long game. And it was pretty balanced overall. I feel like I should have taken maybe Carrion Storm instead of Chain Lightning. And maybe like Infernal or something. I don't know. I'm still not entirely sure how I would have pushed their base. I mean, maybe you can take Sleep, but I'm not actually sure if Sleep works on Avatar or not. He died again. I mean, look at the kills on the group. That tells you a lot, right? For a 2.5 hour game, this was extremely non-lethal. So at this stage, I buy the bongs. At least one. This guy was saying the Spell Immune Alliance units were causing him problems, but... I mean... Incidentally, yeah, but the issue was bigger than that. I don't think this map is entirely symmetrical, is it? Right? Well, it kind of is. Yeah, it's inversely symmetrical. So this area here is kind of similar to this one. But we don't have those creep camps on the bottom either. Yeah, there's a few times High Zealot. I think I missed them way earlier on. High Zealot suicided the Orc Castle. He was able to get it down to about half health. Ricky got whipped. I thought Lolly's long gone now. He did stick out for most of the game though. But now it's at a stage where they can't even end the game. They just like died trying to. They're just like trying to suicide the buildings. Everybody dying. High Zealot dying. Ricky dying. And that's it. Okay. Let's take a look at our stats. There is an error in handling the request. Okay then, Blizzard. Units killed. Alliance 5,000, Horde 4,800, HKS apparently 1,400. High Zealot 1,000. I don't know. The units killed is always really strange to me. Really, really strange. Because I think it counts like summoned units timing out and shit like that. The hero kills, I ended the game with the top hero kills. So, you know, looking at stats like that's always kind of troublesome, right? Because they don't really tell you very much. Like, how did you get those kills? Right, when we were talking about the game where I was super far ahead because of the summons and early kills, a bunch of those early kills came from Q. Now, this doesn't show you assists, right? Like, when you looked at League, you could tell a lot about a League game by looking at the assists and the kills. A lot of the times you could look at a League score screen. You get a pretty solid understanding of where a lot of the kills came from. For example, if a mid laner was like 11-2, but it was like 11-2-1, right? That tells you a lot. Like, a lot of the kills that they were a part of, they took. And it means there are a lot of solo kills, right? But then if you look at like the jungler, and the jungler is like 1-2-8. And the jungler has a whole bunch of assists, and the bulk of their kills are on the mid laner. That tells you, at the very minimum, the jungler was present for a chunk of the mid laner's kills, right? But it doesn't tell you that in this, right? It doesn't tell you that in this. So if we looked at Q in this, for example, and he had like 1 or 2 assists, then you can deduce that Q is sitting alone in lane tanking 50 minions and then killed Bill anyways, right? You don't get that. You don't even get deaths in this. It's a pretty useless score screen, all things considered. Look at the gold. The gold really tells you kind of a lot about this game. Early Flame Strike was highly effective for getting money, in spite of mana issues. Early on, the mana issues weren't really a big thing because my goal was not to kill players. I would throw it at players every now and then, just for whatever, more like as a deterrent or a zoning. And I did manage to kill Ricky in a fire once. I think that was the only kill I ever owed to Flame Strike, and the only substantial amount of player damage I ever owed to Flame Strike as well, other than maybe once on Bill, right? It's hard to make Flame Strike work against players, but that was never my intent. My intent was to get creep minions and see if I could kill those without having to rely on, last time I took Chain Lightning, the time before that, it was Carrion Swarm. And people took Carrion Swarm in this game. And we look at the gold, and it's kind of a big difference. In spite of the fact that High Zealot was basically uncontested for the later half of the game, allowed to farm freely, killed a bunch of buildings, had substantial hero kills and stuff like that on top of it, I am still a significant chunk ahead of him on Gold Mind. That's a lot. And I also had more lumber as a result of my higher kills, but the Gold Mind is really the important one here. I also had a lot more than Ricky as well. And Ricky, I believe, paired or exceeded me on gold by the end. There's probably a lot of those may have come from, like, Raised Dead from Thyloli or whatever. I'm not sure if those give bounty or not. But I had the highest gold, and it was by no trivial margin. And Flame Strike... there's a lot of things, like I said, it's going to be a long cast because there's a lot of things I kind of want to talk about in this final word. There's a lot of different subjects to come into. So this is a long game, 2.5 hours, and I feel it's a little too long. At least it's a little too long by extent of why it was long. It was long because by about the 45, 50-minute mark, we were starting to get deadlocked, where once people took blank and once HP started entering circulation, although it took a long time for it to enter all circulation, like it took a long time for Ricky to buy those items. But Ricky was still able to escape because of Blink anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But once those mobility options started coming up, lethality started to drop a lot. And lethality in the game was already quite low. This was a very low lethality game. We had multiple people with stuns, CC, we had Carrion Swarm, we had, a physical damage dealer. And they just did not score kills in this game. Both teams had basically someone who was fat. We had Q and they had Bill. And Bill wasn't even really that hyper fat either. I'm not sure if he ever filled his item or his inventory with the luxury items or not. It doesn't show you, again, the end game inventory screen that League has would be nice just to look at that. And, when we look at the kills, it's so weird. Because if we look at the other games where there was a lot of me securing kills, like I had so many kills early on. Of course, I was really far ahead, right? But that was because of people not really being able to escape and then walking into AoE and dying. They obviously learned and became more mindful of that. Bill started picking fatter heroes, and Ricky took mana shields, and High Zealot took engineering upgrade early on, which helped him avoid really being harassed a lot. It took him a long time to really get off the ground, which is, that's why he took Carrion Swarm early on. So he wasn't near me in creep kills, but he wasn't horrendously behind everybody else either, right? So it took him for a while to start getting up, and that's something I would like to see resolved, is that the physical damage can be a little bit more relevant early on. But at least there are options on this map where you can take Carrion Swarm, you can take Flame Strike, whatever, early on, and switch those later on if you really wanted to. Like I said, I was kind of tempted to do that, but I didn't really want to. I didn't feel like it would have made a big difference in our current circumstance. And it would take me a little while to really dwell upon this game and why our circumstances felt so one-sided in this. But it really wasn't really one-sided. If it was one-sided, they would have been able to secure victory much sooner. But it was 3v4 for a bulk of time. And for better or for worse, even when we killed them, we still weren't able to push against them anyways. Now, HKS is saying that the siege tanks being, they're obviously a lot stronger of a unit than the catapults. They don't deal siege damage, so they do enhanced damage versus some of the units. And they do have like an extra 1,000 health. They also have the rockets. They last a lot longer. Even when you wave clear, they do more damage to make pushing a lot more harder, especially seeing as the caster heroes typically don't do any damage in front anyways. I think having a physical damage dealer on our team would have helped a little bit, but we still wouldn't have been able to solve the ultimate problem of Avatar plus Divine Shield plus Demolish. Now, like I said before, and I've said again and again, Sleep was changed to affect Divine Shield because that was the proposed solution at the time. But that's not a solution. That's just like trying to apply a Band-Aid to a buckshot wound. It's kind of like a complementary award that really just like... It doesn't really solve the original problem of Divine Shield being annoying. Now you have someone who's invulnerable for however long, they're just asleep, and now, you got people just standing around waiting for this long crowd control to end. No, Divine Shield's the problem. That's why we nerfed it. So Divine Shield really wasn't an issue in this game. But Avatar is one I have been reluctant to gut reflex say this should be nerfed in the ground. It has been nerfed already, I believe, because it was like a minute long before. And the reason why I believe it's been a long time, but the reason why I believe we entered that sort of meta of, burst casters and stuff like that was because we had just really not really a meta at all, right? There wasn't really consistent anything going on. And then when Mucky took over the map and made some stuff viable again, and we started exploring, and I started exploring with Carrion Swarm. Carrion Swarm is evidently very strong and very reliable, and it became a staple. But it, for some reason, took up until that one game where I got really far ahead for people to suddenly realize that Carrion Swarm was a good staple. But now Carrion Swarm the damage cap, I believe, should be the same as Shockwave, right? I thought about that. I thought it wouldn't really be a big deal. But when we look at the end game like this, where it feels like you just cannot push at all, and when one wave clear, one player wave clearing can do that much with that spell, and Chain Lightning feels so much less effective, especially with Chain Lightning and Chain Death Coil, the two of them. It just felt like it could not compete with Ricky at all. Maybe then we should look at tapping that max damage cap and bringing that in line with the other equivalents, right? Because it's not like Shockwave is clearing all the waves. I haven't worked with Shockwave yet. That might be something I'll look at. And again, I want to put in some agility bias ranged heroes in this. I think we could even bring in some new graphics into the map. I believe I downloaded some graphics over the internet way back for Lowlands the Legend, actually. And I don't know, I might be able to bring those in and see if they would work with the map, or we can just use some that are already in the map or whatever. That's something I'd like to see. It's like an SI. It's more of a longer term thing. Like I don't really have time to put my own time into this. The replay it eats a chunk of my time as it is, and I got so many other things I got to do. It's HKS working on it, just little bits of odds and ends between when he's busy too, right? So it's so easy for us to sit down and say, yeah, let's make all the spell skill shots, and then we can make them a little stronger, and then talk about removing magic resist. In an ideal world, sure, but how are we going to make that work in a map like this? So I think that's like, that's like I wish I could do this kind of thing. We got to work with what we've got. I was talking about changing the map layout to little bits, and I would just like to see you be able to navigate the map without needing to use Blink, without needing to use Mass Teleport, and then without having to go all the way through your base. Now, currently, you can't really do that unless you have a way to destroy trees. And I'm not even sure what the collision for those areas looks like, but a lot of them have cliffs and stuff or water you couldn't go past anyways. Now, I would like to see you be able to navigate the lanes, but I think you're going to introduce more problems if you can just go between the lanes very quickly. Part of the problem is the map is not very big, and because of the way the lanes are laid out with the way the middle lane is, you don't really have a jungle to this map either. So, of course, in League and Dota, the jungle is much more of a thing. In this map, it really isn't. That's why we're sometimes seeing the creep camps get into shit-flinging contests with the waves, is because they're close enough, they run into each other, and the pathing breaks, and they get stuck, and the flyers decide to cut a corner or something like that, and they start shooting at each other, right? So, by opening those areas up more, we would introduce potentially more of those problems. But, I mean, we're not like trying to build a professional map here. We're just trying to make something where at least, you can try to do some different things. And I think maybe adding some, maybe not necessarily wide, but winding paths in that one location I mentioned, and then the flip location for the top lane could be interesting. I kind of face this problem with Lowlands Legend too, right? Because it also had a strange lane layout. I wanted you to navigate between the lanes. It doesn't really feel that great when the lanes are just big, long passages, especially if you were to remove all the ramps from it, which I feel like should be done, honestly. You still have the problem where running back and forth, chasing or being chased through this long passage is just, you can't really work that well with that. And now I have to go AFK again. God damn it. Okay, so I just kind of wanted to hop into the map to kind of... What the fuck? What happened to the map? Why does it look like such shit? Where's all the shadows? Holy God, this looks awful. What the fuck did they do? Oh, this is the refunded edition, right? That's terrible. It looks even worse than the original, which is a margin I honestly just did not think was possible. It looks like it's unlit. It's just disgusting. Oh, hold on. We can set the texture quality to high. How do I... These pictures are the same. This looks so horrible. What would ever compel you to release something that looks like this? Teen data. Is it not a preferences? Well, we might have to live with it. Hopefully I can figure out what's going on, because this is some of the ugliest shit I've seen in a while. God damn. Oh, here we are. Asset mode. I like how they change it to be, they say it's SD versus HD, as if to imply that these graphics are supposed to be some kind of improvement over the old ones. Oh, whoa! 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 That was a VPU crash. Congratulations, Activision Blizzard. Congratulations. Brilliant. You just fucked probably everything I was working on. Good job. Oh, sorry. I gotta correct myself. It's Microsoft Activision Blizzard now. Yay. Now the map doesn't look like complete shit. I mean, it looks like complete shit. But at least you can read the fucking thing. All right, so what I'm thinking of is like something minor here, right? Like we're not even gonna try to be pretty about this. I'm just gonna make a point. Down here, oh, we fucked that up already. Something like down the middle. I don't think something up here. And we would clean this up a little bit. And then, of course, up here would be... we would connect these, right? Like that. We just connect those. And then you could hypothetically... I wouldn't really want to connect something behind the tower on this. But, I mean, you could, if you really wanted to. You could do the same. Then you think about the mid lane. So if you wanted to be able to connect the mid lane to the upper and top lane, I think you got to stick more creeps in it. The one that bothers me the most about potentially doing that is going to be this right here. Because, well, it's really direct up. So I think I would allow you to go maybe down here past the turtles into the side here. So we would talk like maybe like, oh my fucking God. Well, you'd have to redo all this shit and not delete your turtles. With here, it would be kind of the same. We would open up this passage here, right? While having some way to prevent people from coming down from mid and then just shooting over at you. So we would probably use like some cliffs rather than trees or something there to block that, right? So, and then of course, I would flatten all this and consider getting rid of... the ramps, and then using line of sight blockers or something with cliffs, or just leave the cliffs as they are on the sides and cleaning that up. So there would be a lot of little changes just to kind of spread stuff out a little bit. And I'm sure something could be done for the creep camps on the sides to make them not take so fucking long to navigate, because you gotta really go quite the distance to get over there, which can take kind of a long time. And at least personally, I feel a little stressed out for time going in and out of there. When the map, there's a lot of stuff going on the map, but at the same time, you don't really want an easy way out because you want people to be able to come in and attack whoever is going there, right? With the Zeppelin and the stuff like that, I guess those are probably fine where they are. But just like little minor changes like that. I don't know. Like, obviously, you tidy it up and change stuff. And I don't think you should be able to go from mid lane into these side quadrants. Maybe you could, but preferably down for these These, and then I would probably make these stronger camps, like more turtles or bigger turtles or whatever, right? So that's the kind of thing I would be thinking of in that regard. With the bases and the ramps, the ramps are really frustrating, but if you remove the ramps and the bases, it's going to make defending them a lot harder, which maybe that's what you want. But I know that when I did a version of this for the original Oldens of Legend where I changed the bases quite a lot. And I believe I added defensive structures in the middle here and more shit. But I believe I may have gotten rid of all of the ramps in a lot of the cases. I'll probably still have that version of the map somewhere, but it would be hard to adapt into something like this anyways. I don't think you'd really want to. There's definitely some beautification you can do up with the map. You can fix a lot of these little bridges and shit like that kind of look awkward, and add some more diversity to the tiles and stuff. But there's a lot of places in the map where you can see the you see right here with the pathing that you can just end up in between the trees, right? So when I was chasing High Zealot down here, I got stuck in here, and you can kind of see why that happened. It's because the trees are only one tile. Now, originally I said in the game you should just increase the trees' tile size, their collision size, but I actually think that would be a bad idea. I think you're going to fill this up with more trees or rocks, or you're going to paint pathing blockers there to prevent people from ever going inside of there at all. There are spaces literally right next to the fucking base. This is where Ricky was. That you can't see into there. You'll see it from a certain angle. And you can just blink into there and teleport out. And unless there's an air unit above it, you may not even ever see him there, right? It's a bit of a goddamn mess. Not to speak of, you may not want to go into those. A lot of cases I don't want to go into those spots, but Blink will take me into it because you don't know what the distance is. And not all of the places are bad. Like over here, I think is okay, except for here. Well, this is open, so this looks like you can go in there, so that's okay. But in here, not so good. I feel like you could do something with this space over here. Put like small camps, maybe even connected to this. This could go into here. You could put a small camp into there. And let's see, that was here, right? And then over here is kind of the same. Like you could put, let's see, this goes into there. And this could go into there too, right? From the top and the bottom. And then, if you really wanted to, you could put a little ramp that the top and bottom can go in here, and that could be how they could connect to it as well, right? With some minion camps in between. And, you put minions like here. Preferably not close enough that they're going to get caught by any of the camps. Or maybe you could put line of sight blockers or something around there, or cliffs or something, right? There's a few ways you could play around with it. But it would take some time to set that up to make sure it works. But the pathing, I feel like, is something you most certainly could try to fix. I really got to take a dump, and I really got to go AFK at any moment. So I'm going to leave it at that. I know there was a lot of stuff I kind of touched on and I never really elaborated on, but this is such a long cast as it is. We'll just pick up where we left off elsewhere, right? Like it's just a something we iterate on. So hopefully it gives you some food for thought.